All right, we are live, and by we, I mean me, Jeff of World Class Bullshitters, MauLer, say hello, MauLer.
Hello.
Razorfist.
Godspeed, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
And Retroblasting.
Hey, everybody. It's been a weird week.
Yeah, it has, and let's blame Star Wars for that.
Why not?
Well, they keep blaming us for everything. We're the reason that Star Wars is failing. We're the reason that people hate this and that. So let's put the blame on them for ruining our weeks. But let's start out talking about Solo, a Star Wars story. Here on the channel, we said it was just okay at the best. 5 out of 10. MauLer, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
When I left the theater, I actually said to a friend it's like a 4 or 5. After thinking about it for a while, I'd say 2 or 3 at most.
Razor?
I'm going to go with a I didn't see it and refuse to in the future out of 10.
Perfect score. Michael?
As part of my ongoing not going to see Lucasfilm stuff so that I don't give them money since before Last Jedi, Rogue One was the last one I saw. I saw Last Jedi on an Indonesian bootleg, so I did see it but didn't pay money. I'm waiting for a good bootleg of Solo to come out, but the anecdotal evidence that I've heard from many, many people in my circles through the Retroblasting channel, they've all said, it's better than The Last Jedi, which of course means they're not saying anything. But they also say, I kind of enjoyed it. You know, people have been coming up to me. I kind of enjoyed it. So I'm sure Ron Howard did make a better movie. I don't know by how much.
Well, real quick, I'm going to read this super chat from Artorius Dark Knight, thank you, or Drac Knight, thank you. It says, what do you guys think of the Council of Geeks? Have you guys ever heard of the Council of Geeks?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Oh, wait, yes, I have. Of course I have.
I'm the only one that doesn't know who they are.
Bad YouTuber. I mean, you, not them.
That is why you fail.
Well, here's a question I had for you, Michael and Razorfist. How did you get to just skipping Solo? Like, what have they done to you in the past to get you into this situation?
Razor, go ahead.
Oh, no. After you, sir.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So I guess I'm on the razor's edge. All right, so...
Hey!
God.
All right.
That's pun poisoning.
That's the only bad pun you're going to hear from me this session. So the way I got to this, Jeff, we talked about this in the last time we were together on YouTube. I really hated Force Awakens when I saw it in the theater. There was no questioning. There was no going back and seeing it a second time to make sure that I was sure about my opinion. Like, I'm almost 40 years old. If I don't know if I don't like a movie on first viewing by now, then I need to go take some specialized testing or something. So I really hated that movie. And I did go see Rogue One because I liked the one and done premise of it and the fact that it was not conceptualized by Disney Lucasfilm. It was conceptualized by... oh gosh, the guy who was the special effects dude on the prequels who just really wanted to make that movie. So I wanted to give him a chance. But then I was not going back to The Last Jedi. And the reason I didn't was because I knew they were going to kill Luke Skywalker. Like, I knew they were going to do it because they got no imagination.
Yeah.
I did not know until after that how much worse the movie was beyond that until people started telling me, and then I saw the bootleg copy. But that alone kept me from... I'm like, no. This is Groundhog Day. You killed Han Solo poorly. You killed Luke Skywalker poorly. Carrie Fisher is already dead now, unfortunately. I'm done. Until this leadership changes, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, that's closer than you might think.
For me, it does sound like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's about as popular as a narc at a biker rally. But yeah, I have been off the Star Wars bandwagon for some time. I predicted... around the time Rogue One came out, actually even before that, but we'll say around the time Rogue One came out, that you pretty much, I think I put out a tweet saying something to the effect of, you will beg for George Lucas before the end. You guys have no idea how bad this is going to be. And it really, like... what follows at this point is going to make George Lucas look like the most strident Star Wars lore master in galactic fucking history. Because Disney is in this. George Lucas made some money off of Star Wars. Disney is in it for money. Like, that's it. That's the sole concern here. And that's fine, as long as you're making it. But once you're not, or once you're making less than you were supposed to, that's when the shit hits the fan. and when you're going to see some really cringy stuff happening, because then you get the sort of the sudden corrections in the franchise that have to happen in a moment's notice, and then plans get dropped and storylines get left unsolved, and we're already seeing some of that already. That was half the reason Last Jedi was terrible, because you had a new director who took all these plot threads that J.J. Abrams had carefully strung up, if we consider that carefully, and they basically just dropped them all, and we're like, fuck it, whatever. We'll kill Darth Sidious over here for no reason. We'll never pay his character off, and the fucking tinfoil stormtrooper chick, we'll just throw her into a fire pit. No payoff there.
The dirtiest thing they did was, when they brought out Last Jedi, they started when the movie began. They started with the news of, we threw out George Lucas's outlines. We didn't use those for this trilogy. We ignored those. And then when Last Jedi started getting all this bad word of mouth, they came back around and they were like, oh well, this is loosely based on George Lucas's outlines. And it's like, okay, so now you're going to throw him under the bus for your failure after you kicked him to the curb? Forget it. Forget you guys.
Yeah, Razor, I'm with you. Sorry, I was just saying, I'm with you. Even before Rogue One, I said it after I watched Episode 7. I put it on the channel. I was like, Star Wars is fucked. There is not a good future for this franchise. Here we are now. Now everyone's kind of feeling the same thing. And the funniest part is the people like the John Campias of the world, and actually John Campia himself is, they're just changing their position on it. Now they're saying, Kathleen Kennedy should step down. All this should happen. And it's like, I'm not trying to say I told you so, but I fucking told you so. And now we're here, and it's really bizarre.
Why do you think that's happening all at the same time? Don't you? Jeremy Jahns, John Campia, the Rap, they're all starting to make these stories. I know that the media is like a parrot that circle jerks. I get that, but
it's more popular to hate on it now than it is to.
Well, look, you get some, like, I feel like you get a little bit of leeway when you're out of step. Like Red Letter Media loved The Force Awakens, and today everyone kind of pretends they didn't.
Right.
Because after the fact, they put out another review and kind of amended their opinion. You're going to get leeway 1 or 2 movies down the line. But you keep creaming your culottes over these terrible Star Wars flicks that Disney are pinching out long enough, and eventually you're not going to have an audience.
Right. So, Red Letter Media claimed to like Solo, didn't they?
Did they? I don't even know.
Rich Evans loved it. Jay kind of thought it was terrible. Mike was like in between.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with you again, I'm with you, Razor. I think they have to stay relevant because John Campia is real shady. Like, he gets all the benefits and payoffs of, if I say good things about Lucasfilm Star Wars films, I get to go to the premiere and I get to do that. My wife just so happens to work at Hasbro, so I got to keep the corporate synergy there. And I just think trust is a big issue with a lot of these people because they have a stake in it. And if if they don't say the right thing, they get hurt. So they always say the right thing to get the benefits. And a lot of people are waking up to that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty cynical about this, but I'm not sure Jeremy Jahns would have made that video if he didn't know about everybody hating on Star Wars right now, or at least more so than ever.
Well, he is. I will agree with you on that point. Like, in the next video, I was going to bring him up. I think he's doing it to stay relevant in that term. Like, hey, I can't keep doing this, or I'm going to lose my audience, type of thing.
He made a simultaneously negative and positive review, didn't he?
Honestly, after he made something, I just stopped watching him and Red Letter Media. I used to love the Red Letter Media guys, but that Star Wars review, I was like, this is everything you guys are against, but you're praising it.
Right.
I'm done. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I think what fucking lodges my nets in my throat is when they kind of play faux, they play the faux objective. They play devil's advocate with, like, I remember when, was it Rogue One was about to come out and the writers had made really obnoxious political statements and stuff about gender politics. And it was like, people were kind of like, hey, what's going on over there? Like, is that going to be in the movie? Is there going to be like bad stuff like that in the movie? And everyone was like, oh, stop. They were like, just because 2 of the main writers are, SJW shit stains, working for a company that promulgates said SJW shit stainery and exclusivity, it doesn't mean the movie's going to have skid marks. Ultimately, it appears that it's been wedged into a lot of these movies.
What would you say is like the most blatant moment of that across all of the Disney films? Would it be L3 or would it be someone else?
I'm going to go with Rey in The Force Awakens. They were just some really obvious things that weren't said, but like, that's when I noticed it. I was like, oh God, it's one of these movies, especially how she treated Finn in the beginning of the movie. Like, don't teach me how to run and this and that. And she just seemed, it's like she was trying to be the strong female lead, but she was so off-putting. And then especially when she gets on the second or the third Death Star, whatever it is, and then she just knows everything. I'm like, there's no adversity for this woman to face. Therefore, she's not interesting.
Thank you. That's the issue primarily is like, I probably could... Rey's genitalia has nothing to do with it. If she had an obstacle to overcome, you know what I mean? Like it would, it might actually have been endearing, and we might actually.
Do you guys remember she frees herself before they leave to rescue her?
Yep.
Right.
Like how insane is that to think about? It's like, wow, she's good.
Yeah, she teaches herself the Force and beats not Vader, and it's fantastic. Whatever he is, Kylo Ren.
That is the number one reason why I'm not excited for Episode 9. Honestly, above the SJW politics, above anything. She beat the villain. There's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker's journey was to beat Darth Vader or, redeem him in that case.
You're not excited to see her win again?
I want to see her die. Like, I don't. It's not about her being a woman. She's a shit character. And all my friends in real life, I'm like, oh yeah, she's not going to have anything happen. Luke and Anakin lose a body part. What happens to her? She gets a scratch on her forehead and a scratch on her arm, and that's it. The bad guy just magically leaves. Like, the killed by someone else. Like, all this shit happens, and she just benefits magically.
Yeah, they really wrote themselves. When you really sit back and think about it, they wrote themselves into quite a corner with the next movie.
Imagine picking up after Ryan's film. Like, you have nothing to work with at the end of The Last Jedi.
Nothing. Absolutely. I mean, I guess you could have a situation where she dies and Kylo Ren redeems himself. You have kind of a reverse of what Luke did with Darth Vader, right? Where instead of Luke surviving and Darth Vader dying but redeeming himself at the end, Kylo Ren redeems himself somehow. But here's the thing: what would they even be facing? Like, there's no bad guy left.
Nope.
There's no. Like, Snoke is not there.
They'll make Hux intimidating suddenly. There you go.
Look, if they preserve Kylo Ren through the end of this series, that's going to burn me up because he is the worst villain I've seen in cinema history. Like, the worst.
Have you seen the amount of people who've said he's the greatest character in the saga? How many videos have been made about this?
I have, and it keeps me
horrible.
up at night.
Donald Glover said that himself.
Yep, better than Vader.
That should have been our first clue.
Real quick, we got a few super chats I have to read on behind. I'm sorry. First off, Nightwish fan 1991. Don't forget about the fucking dice because Lord knows Disney won't let us. Those gold dice were like the dumbest way to like try to tie movies together.
Yep.
They realized they fucked up when nobody cared about the dice of Last Jedi. So like, oh, here's Solo. We'll make them more important now. And it's like, we don't care. We don't care.
Nobody cares.
Another one from Tony Hino. Saw Solo and can't believe how angry I got from constant references every goddamn minute without reason. Solo references the Weekend Story.
Yeah.
Harry Thompson, great to hear you guys together. Shame what happened to Star Wars. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Harry. Crap. Two of them. Wait, the other ones disappeared. There were a few that I missed. Hey, folks, if you sent in your super chat a moment ago, just tag me. You don't have to repay or anything. Just tag me and I'll reread it on air because I didn't want to kill the flow of the conversation. Anyway, though, back to where we were. Kylo Ren being the shittiest villain possible.
Yeah, he's killed his dad. He was pretty much trying to kill his mom. All for what? And then he's whipped by Rey in the first movie because reasons. And then in the second movie, he's able to mind freak Snoke and kill him in his chair. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is so lopsided. He can't kill Twiggy, but he can kill the ultimate, dark side bad in his chair. Like,
yeah.
And they may have ripped off Darth Revan from KOTOR, but at least they irreparably fucked him up.
Right.
At least there's that. That's what really struck me when I saw Kylo Ren the first time was just, really, we're just gonna take another character that already exists. Okay, like this is Disney Star Wars to a T. Like, this is the same thing they're doing with the EU characters that they're going to bring in. I have you know, how badly would they fuck up Thrawn if they brought him into a movie? I understand they put him in, was it Rebels or whatever?
Yeah, they put him in Rebels. Yeah.
Oh man, I do not want to see him in a movie. Honestly, if you were going to make Shadows of the Empire, and this juncture, I think we can kind of look back and say, hey, maybe that actually should have been done at the time.
I'm waiting.
You should have done it in the mid '90s when they still, you know, the Leia didn't look melty and old, and they were still, you know, they were still relatively vivacious.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the day when the leadership turns over at Lucasfilm and they actually pull a reversal and they go, we are decanonizing everything under the Kennedy banner, and we're recanonizing all the expanded universe and going from there. Like I can just see, because they can make animated films off of those. Right. They can do all kinds of stuff with them.
Yeah, but do you think the general public will give a shit? Because
they would, because they're good stories. And then when they see them for the first time, they're like, wow, that doesn't suck.
Well, I meant like the decanonization of Star Wars, because I know a lot of people that I interact with don't really pay attention to the difference between saga or sequel trilogy films and all that stuff. They're just like, they're all Star Wars. So to them, Solo is just another Star Wars movie. And I know a couple people, they're like, I didn't like the last one. I don't care about the next one. And I don't know if you can basically retcon storylines where people won't be confused. I mean, Marvel, it might be trying the time travel thing with the next Avengers, and that's going to be kind of iffy. But do you really think, like, if they were to say episode 7 through whatever didn't happen, and we're giving you a new episode 7 in a different way, either animated or digital or something, that people would actually be able to?
Well, this is what I've sadly, I've given this too much thought in my private life, but this is what I would do. I've talked about this with some people. I would make 3, if I was brought in as the next Kathleen Kennedy tomorrow, my plan would immediately be to make 3 kick-ass movies in sequence, not calling them episode anything. I would make 3 kick-ass movies.
Would it be a subtitle of Star Wars? Or?
Yes, Star Wars, and then it would be a subtitle like Star Wars Revolt of the Jawas, or Star Wars, you know, whatever, Garage Sale of the Ewoks. It would be like whatever. And then right as that first movie or first 2 movies are big hits because they're good 2 parts of a trilogy and people are really into it, then I go to Star Wars Celebration and I stand there in front of the big Steve Jobs screen and everyone's sitting there and I pull up the 6 titles, the 3 titles for my trilogy and the 3 titles for the Kennedy trilogy, and then the Roman numerals all move in sequence down into my movie titles. And then people are like, oh my God, we've been watching the new episode 7 through 9 the whole time. And then I'm like, yeah. And then I walk off stage.
Which is basically exactly what happened with the original trilogy.
Right.
They basically gave them episode titles years the fuck later after it was already done.
Right.
Let me ask you this question, because this is something I was talking about on Twitter. Would you film all the movies at the same time? Like Lord of the Rings style?
I guess if I wanted to get them all in the can before the internet was the wiser, then maybe that would be the smartest thing to do. But if the story, well, yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, because the story, even if you had to set something 5 or 6 years after the last movie, that would just take production design. It wouldn't necessarily have to be 3 years after in production time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Here's my thinking. Star Wars, and this is the main thing that Disney just resoundingly goddamn does not get. Star Wars is a film serial. It's not some deeply artistic expression of the human condition. It's Flash fucking Gordon. Like, that's all it is. It's modern Flash Gordon. That's why it was so successful in 1977 after the most depressing decade in the history of film, because it was suddenly, pow, we're in space and we're fighting evil guys from fucking Mars. And that was the whole point. This is the thing Disney doesn't get, and I don't think, like, you look at stuff like Rogue One or Last Jedi, which is so morose and depressing and what have you. Like, yes, Empire Strikes Back was a darker film, but at the end of the day, it's still understood the serialized storytelling and so forth. You watch that entire sequence in the asteroid belt in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, fucking Flash Gordon could have been flying the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
It absolutely gets that, even though it's a darker film. These new movies don't. They don't. Right. They take it seriously because they're like 2 generations removed from the original inspiration.
Well, did you see that bullshit article that came out where the cinematographer explained the reason the movies look dark is because it's such a dark time politically?
Oh my God.
Yeah, one of our fans over on the Facebook page, if you're in the chat, tell me and I'll give you a quick shout out, sent that to me. And I was just like, seriously? Either you're just shit at being a cinematographer or you're just trying to make it too political. Like,
not only that, but like talk about not understanding the facility of film to seize on a counter zeitgeist, like to not understand furthermore that Star Wars is one of the primary exemplars of this phenomenon in the past. This is a movie series that literally, it's 1977. You know, it's only a few years removed from the Vietnam War. The Iran thing is like there's massive oil shortages. It's actually a very, very dark time when the original Star Wars comes out. That's why Star Wars was successful, because it was the exact opposite of real life.
Right. And this is the mistake that a lot of these studios are making right now. They hire these auteurs to come in and give them their vision so they don't have to do any thinking. I said the same thing, Razor, about Man of Steel. I was like, Man of Steel was the opportunity to do a Superman movie that lifted us as an audience out of the darkness we were experiencing in the country. And they missed that boat and decided to make Man of Steel, Superman of all people, a reflection of all this, quote, darkness. At least that's Zack Snyder's excuse. And I'm going, what a missed opportunity to, as you say, you know, reverse the zeitgeist. And yet they didn't do it. And the same thing is happening here. It's weird. It's like these directors, they're all the wrong directors for their time. They're the wrong creatives for their time.
Oh, totally. And that, honestly, it's hilarious because Disney is so much about, we're going to shake off the doldrums of the prequels. When in actuality, they're making the same mistake the prequels.
I mean,
if
you see Solo, you'll realize that they've given up on that now, and they're actually trying to bank on the prequels.
A bit, yeah, more than a little bit with the Darth Maul appearance. I haven't seen it. By
shocking to me that they've gone from being like, we're not the prequels guys to, hey guys, we can be the prequels. It's like, oh my god.
It's like, well, memes are a thing now.
I wish they had that courage during Force Awakens to at least explain a little bit about how the New Republic government worked before they blew it up. God.
Yeah.
No shit.
Dude, I thought that was Coruscant they blew up in Episode 7. I was so confused with, like...
So did I! I have no idea. What planet even was that?
I don't know. Somebody will tell me.
It was like New Walla Walla. Like, it was just this place off to the left that they set up like an embassy or something. I don't know.
Wow. But no, that was my thought, is the prequels. One of the reasons I think the prequels didn't connect beyond their flaws as films was because, you know, they came out. Well, the first one actually did really well. Phantom Menace did really well because it was 99 and it was kind of a, you know, it was a big cinematic euphony and people seem to enjoy it, whatever. This is something people don't realize. A lot of people don't realize anyway.
It made $500 million domestic. I mean, it
did really well, and it was actually very well received. And then, like, it was years later, people kind of decided they didn't like it so much. But Attack of the Clones is where it started to go downhill. And if you look at it, really dark film, and came out right after 9/11. Like, not the best timing in the world.
That's why Spider-Man was such a huge hit.
Yo, exactly. And Spider-Man 2 even, which was not very dark. But then you get to the dark Spider-Man film in 2007, and it doesn't work so well.
The only reason I brought up Spider-Man is because when you said post 9/11, that scene on the bridge seemed like a response. You know, it's like, hey guys, the last few months have been terrible. Now it's time to move on past that, at least in terms of film, not in the real world. And that's what I think you said the first Star Wars did. You know, post Watergate and all that shit. We had that. And Episode 2, it's weird how, like, I used to think that was the worst one, and now I don't think it's as bad. I still think it's a shitty movie, but looking at what we've been given now,
totally. Totally. The prequels they absolutely look like Lawrence of Arabia by comparison.
I like to picture the scale was prequels at 1 and then, you know, OT at 10. And now the scale is turned into the prequels move up to 5 with Disney at 0.
Although I did try to rewatch them recently in the wake of all this Last Jedi stuff before Solo even came out. Yeah. And I will say, while they are better by comparison than what Disney has been foisting upon us, they are still guilty of the sins that they brought to us back in the aughts. Like, they are they're not suddenly watchable and engaging, and, you know.
For me, I'll say that the end of Episode 1, the lightsaber duel's gotten better for me after that really piss poor lightsaber duel in Episode 7 and 8.
Yeah. No, I agree. The lightsaber duel in Phantom Menace, I think, is still the high watermark for any Star Wars movie. Personally, I think
music, everything was perfect. I mean, not to harp on the music, but each Star Wars movie had a really great new piece of score added. These new ones don't. I can't think of anything.
You don't love them just reusing all the themes. I actually, because I watched your video where you were talking about the film, and you said something that I said about, well, a different film. In The Last Jedi, you'll probably know what I'm talking about when I finish this, but in The Last Jedi, when they go through the caves and basically just rip off the Death Star run from Episode 6, they play the same music as well. Yep. I adore that bit. And I was like, fuck you, you botched clone. You are not that film. Stop trying to be that film. Like, you just keep stealing things. You're not actually making something.
Did you ever, in your life, think you would cringe at the opening Star Wars fanfare?
Nope.
Oh, it was terrible. I was like, wait a second. I've heard this version of the theme before. That's right. It was on the Rebel Assault CD-ROM in 1993. It was so bad. And I looked over at Melinda when it started playing, and I was like, this is CD-ROM PC game music. This isn't a real theme. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, you didn't hear the lack of punch? She goes, no. I said, that's because it didn't punch you. I was like,
Thank God I'm not the only one, because I looked over to my friends and they just went, huh? It's a Star Wars theme. I'm like, God damn it.
No, it was tinny and empty. It had no percussion punch behind it. Like it sounded like it had been done by somebody with like Adobe Audition and a Casio keyboard. It was terrible.
Well, Michael, you talked about terrible, dude. They actually took snippets from the original film. You know the music when they're fighting off the TIE fighters as they escape the Death Star?
Yeah.
They took that actual score from the film, and then they took the music from Empire during the asteroid field. They took them, the same things, put them together when Han Solo did the Kessel Run. They just would recycle the music.
Yeah, they did
reorchestrate it.
They do the same thing at the very end of Force Awakens when Rey turns on her lightsaber for the first time. All they did was track the music from Luke finding his aunt and uncle dead. It's the same track. They're like, it's not even a reorchestration. They just lifted the soundtrack and dropped it on the movie. And I looked over at Melinda again, and I was like, what is this shit? You know, and she was like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Fans say it's homage, while I look at it as like, no, it's just cheap.
Yeah, it's just cheap. It's just cheap.
You guys can keep touting that John Williams is back, but is that what you mean by John Williams is back? We're just going to replay the old shit he did 40 years ago? I mean,
well, I've never been able to get verification on this, but I was told back when they were making The Force Awakens that John Williams had difficulty getting the full movie from J.J. Abrams, and that he would only give it to him in like 20-minute chunks. Because normally John Williams has to work off the whole print to make his score. And Abrams was so concerned about his mystery box secrecy that he would only give him like parts of the movie at a time. So now I'm not trying to give Williams a pass, especially with the opening theme. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, you could tell. First off, you could tell John Williams, he phoned that score in from orbit.
Oh, yeah.
But no, like the thing you have to understand is the way George Lucas, like imagine the night and day contrast between working with Jar Jar Abrams and working with George Lucas. Because George Lucas used to not only be really proactive with, working with John Williams, he used to actually hand John Williams a temp track composed of classical music that sounded kind of roughly like what he was looking for.
Right.
So he would have this temp track that he would run the early cuts of the film to, and then he would just give that temp track to John Williams, and he'd be like, oh, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Okay.
Yeah, that's called passion and hard work, and these guys don't know how to do that. I mean, they don't want to do it. I mean, look at the way they disrespect the actors and legacy creators of Star Wars in interviews, like the way that Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson talk to Mark Hamill on these panel interviews and stuff. The lack of respect for what has come before them is shocking. Like, you remember, really shocking.
The quote where he's like, Ryan, I told you need to, take the fans into account. And what Ryan said was, no, we need to do what we want. And that's the important. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The best snippet from that panel is when Mark Hamill's like, it says right there in the script, you have to get rid of the past, make it go away, kill it if you have to. And then he turns to Rian Johnson and says, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Just right to his face.
They released prequel after prequel telling us, hey, you cared about this, all right? You cared about Han Solo, right? Come on. It's like, isn't he supposed to be killed by you guys? Like,
and After that, Mark Hamill goes home. It's a late night. You know, he gets into his house. He throws his keys down, and suddenly there's this red dot on his chest through the window, and he's like, "What?" And then all he hears is, "Ha ha! You better stop saying things like that." Ha ha! And then he changes his tune because he's been threatened. It's ridiculous.
Like a literal full mouse is sitting in his living room. What the hell?
Oh, real quick. Well, not real quick. I've been neglecting the super chat, so I gotta give a quick shout out to these people. I apologize, but the flow's been too good to read these in the middle of us talking. So, Tippy Tail McKitty says he thought Daisy Ridley was done after episode 9. We can hope, right, guys?
No, it's like the xenomorph being flushed out the airlock. You know it's coming back.
Benny Warren says, "How do you think Jaina Solo would have handled Kylo Ren?"
Oh, well, are we assuming that they would have been siblings, or is she an independent entity?
Doesn't say. Let's go.
A strong, independent black woman who don't need no man.
Also disabled Mexican, something like that.
Yes.
Tyler Marshall says, "Would you guys say the fan base would be so against them if they just went to a new era and stopped fucking with the characters we love?"
That's the first mistake they made, because when you're walking into the unknown like that, you should have left the original characters in the past where they couldn't have been tainted. They should have taken their original characters and literally put them in a new situation, 40 years in the future or something.
Yeah, there's a great Dark Horse comic that does that called Star Wars Legacy. You could have done that, although I assume Dark Horse owns the rights to that, and they probably wouldn't be eager to.
That's the thing, right? What would this universe look like 500 years from now or before?
Right.
What's going on then?
Yeah.
No, it's a great story too. It's like Luke Skywalker's great grandson or something, and he's addicted to death sticks. I'm not even kidding. It's actually really good. It's better than it sounds.
I'd read it.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love the death stick guy?
Well, did he have like a stupid name too?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah,
Elon Sleaze Bago.
Yeah, yes. He got an action figure, which sold better than Constable Zuvio.
Oh yeah,
Rose Tico.
I found 4 feet of Rose Tico action figures at my local Kroger.
I want to meet the person who bought a Holdo figure.
They're not out yet.
Oh, fine. I just mean there will be someone, right? There's going to be someone out there who buys
Ethan Van Sciver will buy it and burn it on YouTube.
Why were they selling it? Wait, hold on. They had Rose Tico at a grocery store?
Okay, well, here's the thing. Here in Cincinnati, Kroger's a pretty big regional grocery chain, and it's located here in Cincinnati. Funnily enough, all the Star Wars toys were designed in the Kroger building, but that's not important.
Yeah.
Point is, Kroger here will have like superstores. They're called marketplaces, and if you go like a Meijer or just some big thing like that, and they have a toy section. And I went to the one over in Kentucky for the hell of it, and I swear I just took every Rose Tico they had, and I got a video of it. You guys can check it out. 4 feet tall of Rose Tico figures. Like no one wants that girl. I almost feel really sad for her.
I was really confused for a minute there. I'm like, grocery store. What was she in the ethnic food aisle or what is she?
Why would you? What is? She doesn't even have a weapon aside from the taser.
I can't even figure it out.
Can you weaponize autism? I don't know.
from a business perspective, I can't figure that one out either, because I talk about on my channel a lot, because we talk about vintage toys and cartoons all the time, and the merchandising, how many times in boys' toy lines they dropped the female character who was in the cartoon from getting their own action figure. And that was a business decision, because they knew that they would only be able to move so many units of this, and they didn't think this character would sell, and they were afraid that character would what we call now peg warm. So I'm sitting here going, is Disney or Lucasfilm strong-arming Hasbro to make an inordinate amount of Rose Ticos to try and get girls interested in something they're never going to be interested in that quantity? And if so, why aren't they striking a balance? Because right now we've got enough Rose Tico figures to replicate Pegasus Bridge in full scale. So I don't understand. I just don't get it.
That's not a bad thing. And I'll tell you this. I've been wanting to tell you this off air, and I'll tell you more in details. But I had a guy from Hasbro contact me and tell me a figure, which I can't say on air, of how much money they've lost trying to put Star Wars toys into China. And they're aware that Hasbro themselves is aware of how bad the situation is with Star Wars. So while they do dumb things like that, I don't think they want to as much as they're kind of being told to.
That's what I thought too. That was the impression I was getting.
Here we go for another one from Idio Hugma. Ito Higima. Kylo Ren is not a Sith Lord. He is a shit Lord. He's a Sith acolyte who would die in the trials in the tombs of Korriban in the KOTOR era. Star Wars, unremembered, unknown.
Oof.
I need to play KOTOR, like hardcore.
Oh, man, you're missing out. It's good stuff.
Well, in my this is a flaw of mine, but I'm not a big turn-based RPG guy. And I'm pretty sure the first one was turn-based, and I played it way back in 2003, and I was like, I don't like this game.
No, it's real time.
Okay, it's real time. Okay, that's what. Then I haven't touched it since 2003, and that's what I'm remembering. But I do want to get an Xbox One, and then I'll play that on the backwards compatibility list because I love me some Star Wars games. Justin DeRosa says, "Love the channel, y'all." Yeah, dude. We'll talk about that at great lengths whenever you want. The last one I bought was probably Rogue Squadron 3. Yeah,
nice.
That was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I love the old ones, and I borrowed the Force Unleashed. Anyway, though, Justin DeRosa says, "Love the channel, y'all rock." Did you see that on Twitter? Kathleen Kennedy wished herself a happy birthday. What a tool! And it's 3 days early. Thoughts?
Nice.
I mean, if that's true, that's just sad. But okay.
I definitely want to talk about her at great length when we get a chance.
My question is, when are we going to get a picture of Kathleen Kennedy alone in a food court? When is that going to happen? That's coming.
Well, someone's going to have their lips attached to her ass following her around because she's the greatest thing ever. Maybe it'll be Scott Mendelson from Forbes or somebody like that. Yeah. Black Angus reviews. What do you think of the idea offered by Angry Josha that Kira will be planned as a Maul apprentice? Maybe a la the Inquisitors. I'd be down.
Who?
Kira, the girl from the Han Solo movie. Because honestly, she's Han Solo's love interest the whole movie, and then at the end, she's working for Darth Maul, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, she wasn't as like bad like she is in Genesis in terms of like ruining everything. She was just barely around and then just annoying like, at the end. Did you find? Because I was going to say, unfortunately, like only half of us have actually seen the film, but like she's so bolted on in their adventure. She doesn't really serve a purpose. She's just around.
Yeah,
I find it funny that what she did in Kessel, Lando could have done that. Like,
very
he
true.
just sits on the ship doing nothing in that scene.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with making a Han Solo prequel, because his primary love interest he hasn't even met yet.
Yeah.
So you have to wedge someone into that.
Oh yeah, exactly. He's not going to die, and he's not going to fall in love with whoever's there. So that's a double whammy.
Yeah, that's rough.
Holy crap, these are really rolling in. Sorry to anybody that I'm behind. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This one comes from Just a Doit. Yeah. After The Force Awakens, I was disappointed. After The Last Jedi, I was angry. For a movie, out of a movie at the first time in my life. Kathleen Kennedy nearly killed the supposed immortal franchise. Time for a well-earned retirement. Greetings from France. We are the true resistance.
Wow. Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think Last Jedi was also the first time I left a theater angry. And by the way, I watched Batman and Robin on day one, and I had to sit in the front row, craning my neck at the screen the entire time. And it's still the first time I've walked out of a theater angry.
I actually wanted to see Batman and Robin because I was 8 years old when it came out. And I was
going to say I was young and I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger, so I was fine with it.
Had to happen.
It's a movie I've come to hate in my not hate, but like this. It's not good at all, but I've seen worse Batman.
I mean, I'd call it so bad it's good. I enjoy how terrible it is.
I like Batman Forever. Like, I really enjoy Batman Forever. I'm not embarrassed to admit that one. So, God damn. Thank you to thank you to everyone who keeps sending these messages. I'm going to read them in order. You guys talk about Kathleen Kennedy for a moment so I can get a hold of all these, and then we'll get into it.
I don't know a lot about it, honestly.
Well, Michael, you and I have watched tons of the same movies throughout our lives, and you've seen her name pop up on some of the all-time greats, but she didn't really do anything. What were your thoughts of her back in the day when she was just a name? Did you really think, she'd ruin Star Wars?
I mean, this is the thing. A lot of people, are annoyed at me when I put blame on her or Rian Johnson or both or Disney as a whole or Lucasfilm as a whole. They'll be like, you can't know who's responsible for every little thing, and I'd be like, that's true, technically, but you look at statements, articles from these people, and then Rian Johnson's defense.
Not only that, but how ridiculous and hand wringing is that when look. Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner was a bomb when it came out, or a bomb-ish. It just wasn't a huge success. Ridley Scott takes credit or takes the blame for that to this very day. You know what I mean? Like, he still gives interviews saying, you know, I tried to fix it, whatever, it just didn't work, whatever. Like, what? Why are people walking away sideways from the bomb and not admitting they're to blame? Like, shouldn't the director have enough nuts to step
the buck
forward?
stops with somebody, right? It has to be.
Exactly. At a certain point, someone has to take responsibility, even if it's not 100% their fault.
Because, like, you wouldn't blame an actor because they're tied to a script most of the time. And It's like, so it's the script's fault. And you're like, technically, the writer could be changed by the director. So the director could be the fault, but then the director could be changed by producers. So it's like, okay, so where does it end?
Well, with these modern cinematic universes, I watched a YouTube video yesterday. I can't remember who it was by, but it was breaking down, you know, some of the stuff about Kathleen Kennedy. I wish I could remember who it was from. But, you know, with these modern cinematic universes with guys like Kevin Feige and stuff, you need somebody who's like not just steering one ship, but telling the armada where to go. And in this case, Kathleen Kennedy's in charge of the armada, and she's already wrecked a number of ships because she's put the wrong captains in them, and then she's fired those captains in the middle of the voyage, and then tried to put in another captain. You know, and she has skin in this game. It's her job. It's her job to bring all these ships together in the armada and make a cohesive spearhead, and she still has not pulled it off.
Not only that, but like, her decisions at the top are still going to affect the final product. I mean, whose bright idea was it to hire the same myopic asshole who shot Sulu's mid-air sword fight scene from Star Trek 2009 in sharp, tight-ass, shaky cam close-up,
right,
to direct the only science fiction series that has rampant laser sword fighting?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, that was her call, and the final product suffered as a result of that decision. That's one of the reasons the new Star Wars movies have such shitty sword fights.
Well, right. That's, you know, Steven Spielberg himself has said in interviews that when they hired Kathleen Kennedy to be his personal assistant, he said, this isn't coming from me, he said recently, he was like, you know, she wasn't a good assistant at all, but we liked having her around in meetings because she was, you know, good at, you know, asking us questions or something. It was something ridiculous, but he said first she wasn't good at her job, but we kept her around anyway. And it's like, okay. I worked out in LA, and if I had been a bad assistant, I'd have been fired. So
So we should just call her Quota Kennedy now, is basically.
I don't know. I know this was the 70s, so they didn't have that back then. So I don't know what the deal was.
What do you think if she gets fired? Do you think that confirms anything specifically, or can we just assume anything from that? Because I know that a lot of defenders of The Last Jedi would then be like, "Oh, great, everyone's ruined it now. They thought that it was her fault when it wasn't. She made a good film, you know, that sort of thing."
Oh,
I don't think there's enough defenders of The Last Jedi to, you know, make that happen.
Well, think of it this way.
A lot, though. There's some significant YouTubers who are very in favor of the film.
But the thing is, MauLer, they're starting to change their opinions because a lot of people are like, "What the hell? What did you watch?" type of thing. I think there's a big mob mentality, and a lot of people are, you know, switching sides real quick. Like we said earlier, like the John Campias, Jeremy Johns, people like that, because they don't, you know, a lot of these like these yes men Star Wars channels like Star Wars Explained and stuff are kind of becoming irrelevant because they don't really bring anything to the table. They just regurgitate what's out there that anyone can go read on Wikipedia. They don't give a personal spin. They don't have any flair to them. It's just basic shit, and people can get that news elsewhere. And when they're like, "What the hell are these people smoking? This isn't what I watched," they'll just stop going to their channels overall. So I think a lot of people are gonna, you know, switch.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing that pisses me off though is whenever you criticize Kathleen Kennedy, people are like, "Is it because she's a woman?" And it has nothing to do with her being a woman. She's just shitty at her job. Like, she's an executive producer. She dealt with the money. Like, she just knew everybody. That's why she's in there.
I know. We didn't ask her to drive. We asked her to make a movie.
Well, yeah, you get really weird arguments then because people are like, "Oh, you hate her because she's a woman. Don't you know a woman edited the original Star Wars?" And it's like, I don't hate women. What the fuck are you talking about?
A woman provided the first draft of the Empire Strikes Back script.
Yeah, Lee Brackett.
Yeah, like who she, and that woman is a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the same story as you don't have any strong female characters aside from these modern ones, right? And it's like, no, before I was born, there's been strong female characters.
It's not like they've made hundreds of Princess Leia figures and Ellen Ripley figures and a couple Sarah Connors here and there. So, everyone nowadays just, can forget about the past.
Well, it's easy to sit there and try and say the reason that you don't like this is because you have these opinions about a large group of people or this gender or whatever. And it's like, well, that really doesn't hold a lot of water because we all love Jaws and we all love the editing in Jaws, and Jaws was edited by a woman. We all love Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia was edited by a woman. We all love Star Wars. Star Wars was edited by a woman. I'm not even going to get into the great actresses of our time who played strong characters. Ellen Ripley, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. It all doesn't track, but it's the same thing as any other excuse for work that you've done poorly. I'm just going to deflect because I don't want to take the responsibility for this. It has to be someone else's fault. And that's the crappiest part about it.
Well, I mean, anybody who loves the film, it's like, is it possible it was bad and you liked it? Is that possible? And they're just like, what?
Right. You just have bad taste in the way you write stories, and you probably think this is great, but you realize that everybody else hates it, but you can't face it.
Well, what about the people that can't divorce their like personal identities from Star Wars, like you say, Michael, and like it's a personal attack when you say, "Oh, I didn't like that movie. Not everything that Star Wars is good." Those people take it to heart. They're just like, "What? Yeah. What?" And
they've been backing that horse for so long. It's the whole thing of my team, my sports team, right or wrong. It's my franchise, right or wrong. And a lot of us have been fighting this battle. You guys have been fighting it on YouTube. I've only recently done a video about it, but in my private life and on Facebook, I've been doing a lot of that through my portal for years since Force Awakens. I've blogged about it and stuff. When they see the tide turning, it was what I said in my video, which was, they're starting to look over and go, oh, wait, maybe the majority of fans don't share my opinion. Now what do I do? Does that mean that I'm an idiot? Does that mean I don't have any value? I mean, it must be a scary place to be, but I just kind of look at them and go, yeah, where you are now is where you kept me in your own mind for how many years?
Yeah, but at the same time, like these kind of guys, if they were morally dubious enough to become shills to begin with, they are morally dubious to attempt to jeter back with popular opinion, which you're already beginning to see happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely true.
They're just adjusting last minute and hoping no one notices.
Real quick, we got a couple more. One from Idia Hugima. Star Wars, Midget Wars, Ewoks versus Jawas. Who do you guys got in the fight?
Ben Shapiro.
Is he really that little?
The Jawas have tech, like high tech. The Ewoks only have primitive tech.
Right.
The Jawas didn't ruin the movie.
The Ewoks are willing to eat other sentient beings, though. So, yeah.
But if a Jawa could blast them away,
true.
Because I don't think an Ewok could. Like, depends on where they fight. Like, who has the high ground? Where's the battlefield at? Are they on Tatooine? Or are they on Endor? It all depends.
It's over, Wicket. I have the high ground.
Your impression of him is too good. Our friend Dio Brando. First off, thank you to everyone who sent in a super chat. I apologize it's taking me a minute, but you're listening. You guys, there's like almost 4,000 people in this live stream right now. You know the gold you're getting right now. Dio Brando says, I'm so glad the J.J. Abrams Samurai Jack movie never got made. Me too.
Oh, yeah, me too. That would have been terrible.
American Trent 421. Growing up with the prequels, being first introduced to the original trilogy, I loved them both as a kid. Prequels didn't get better, but the OT did. The sequels try to destroy them. That's true.
Oh well, I don't think there's any. Is there even a debate on that? Like the sequel films, if you call them that, are like systematically trying to ruin the OT to the point where it's like, hang on, is this like, is this what you want? Like, isn't this the thing that's making you money? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's what a lot of these guys online who used to shill for this movie are now reversing. They're citing, well, Kathleen Kennedy broke her promise when she told George Lucas, we want to honor your characters and the way that you created them. But then she's been systematically decimating them in these films.
Well, Michael, you and I buy merchandise, or used to buy a lot of merchandise. We know how much stuff they make for the original trilogy compared to any other movie, any other thing. I would put money down. There are more original trilogy Star Wars pieces of merchandise than anything else ever.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe save for like Superman, who has the benefit of like a 30-year jump on Star Wars.
Yeah.
Even then, I'll still go with Star Wars. They're pumping that shit out left and right. But they're not afraid to pull that out. Like, they're not afraid to pull out Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher and dust them off and put them on screen for $2 billion. Like, when they say that kind of stuff, I don't believe anything.
Oh yeah, even in the Solo action figure line, they've got a Hoth Leia from Empire Strikes Back as one of the figures in the lineup. And
I
it's
saw
like,
that.
Yeah, it's like, I thought you guys, again, maybe Hasbro's playing the game where they're like, we've got to get some OT figures in here, or else our sales are going to be in the toilet.
Does she have the Mary Poppins umbrella with her, or
it's a mail away? No, but what was I about to say? They do that all the time, and like they even pull out like Grand Moff Tarkin and stuff. Like, they can't even have a full Solo the movie Wave in the Black series. It's like, hey, here's Grand Moff Tarkin and a Death Star guard. Like, hey, buy something, please buy something. And your buddies over on the Jedi Temple Archives, the place that attacked you, quotation marks, they're going on about how great that Princess Leia figure is and how they're willing to pay like $20 and $30 for it on the second hand market. It's
because it's so hard to find.
Yeah.
Because
distribution's garbage right now for Star Wars toys.
See, if Hasbro was smart, they would embrace the stupidity of the last few movies. And like, they own Nerf, right? So they should have made a Princess Leia Nerf stomp rocket where you like stomp on it, but it goes shooting off into the air, but it's actually Princess Leia, like, in a pose, like flying. Like that, I would have bought ironically. But
I would have too.
Yeah.
We would have made videos about it. Let's see. Back to these. Sorry, folks, but there's like 40 of them. I'll just read these out of order. So how big was L33T's metal rod? It was a rod because Lando got it up there for real.
I feel like a lot of people talk about that. I avoided it in my video because I was like, I don't fucking know what it was. There's also a saw that comes out of here as well.
Yeah.
Hello, what have we here?
I need to see like a 1080p version to know what the hell's going on.
Harry Thompson says, remember, boys and girls, homage is spelled with an H. And just like that H, keep silent. Thanks, Razor. Thanks, Razor. This worked for Kojima and J.J. Abrams.
Oh, yeah, he stole my joke.
Oh, okay. Drone Fury. Can we get an exclusive Pando and L337 droid fucker 2-pack?
It would sell, probably.
Yeah, can that go to the Retroblasting archives if that gets made?
Yeah, we'd probably need to use the Black Series for all that articulation we would need.
Joey R75. I want to thank Razor for getting me back into Deep Space Nine. Just finished season 6.
Sweet. A random Star Trek question on the Star Wars stream. I think you're an apostate now.
Sonny Wynn. Disney Stores doesn't have characters. They have concept art. Toys and marketing first, making a good film not even on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard someone describe it real well. It might have been one of you guys, and if so, please take the credit. But I heard somebody describe Disney's characters not so much as characters, but they're just ciphers. They're just these kind of walking symbols. They're not really anything. And I agreed with that.
I do too. I don't think I'd never have used the word cipher instead of, with this not being deciphered. Anyway, People Circus, The Last Jedi, Broom Kid at the end. Why? Anakin version 2.0, sigh.
I'll tell you why the Broom Kid was there, fucking, because they're going to make 1 million more Star Wars movies. They're like, don't worry, there's more Jedi coming. There's more.
Dude, Rian Johnson ain't getting that trilogy made. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, you think that's
if he does
trilogy down?
Good.
Oh, I'm just going to say, I'm going to say it here and now. When Rian Johnson's trilogy gets canceled and it's announced, I will throw a party. Like, I'm going to throw a party.
Eat the party. Do it.
We'll have it. We'll do a live stream party. We'll
yes,
via YouTube.
Okay. The Big Dong Rian Johnson's trilogy is dead pizza party.
Oh hell yeah!
Can we have him on as well?
We'll try. We can try.
I will have a gigantic extra large pizza mounted on my throbbing erection.
And I will make a personal guarantee that 50% of the people who come to my party will love it and 50% of the people will hate it. But that's the kind of party I like to have.
Do you guys expect episode 9 to fail anywhere close to as badly as Solo?
Fuck no. People are going to forget. They're going to be like, it was 2 years ago. I'm okay.
Side movie, probably not. I think it'll do more incrementally better, but I think it's still going to be a step down from The Last Jedi's box office. No way. The trend is irreversible. It's pretty clear which direction it's going.
Yeah,
I was going to say, Last Jedi's hurt it though, right? You guys would agree with that?
Of course, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the one thing is, if you have all these people on the internet that used to defend Star Wars, they're now going to switch sides. I think with their big platforms, a lot of people are going to hear that. And a lot of people online are attached to, personalities on YouTube. So they're going to say what they say and have those opinions. And if everyone is now going to be like, yo, fire this woman, you can't fix Star Wars and blah, blah, blah. If that goes on long enough, it's going to be a problem for Disney Star Wars in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Thomas King says, my girlfriend likes MauLer's accent a little too much.
I'm the only Brit here, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's so lonely.
Garrett Wansner says, Nambla, a Zachary Smith story. Jethro Fox, Lionel made an a zero scale pink train set for girls in 1957. Oh, Lionel, sorry. Because girls weren't buying toy trains. It did not sell. History repeats.
Oh, good point.
Well, they had, obviously, Michael, you have all these things, but the 12-inch Star Wars figures that came out back in 78.
Yeah.
I know a lot of action figures were that scale, like the Lee Major $6 Million Man and stuff.
Yep.
But Princess Leia had the long hair and stuff so they could try to attract girls, and that didn't even make it past like 2 figures out of the second wave, Boba Fett and IG-88, right?
Yep. Boba Fett and IG-88 were the only two, and I think IG-88 was the only one to ever even have Empire Strikes Back box art. Boba Fett came out. Yeah, I don't have IG-88, and I don't collect inbox because it's not real interesting on a video channel to show things in boxes. But I have Boba Fett. But yeah, I'd love to have IG-88, but it does feel a little incomplete. It's almost
I think I have all those bounty hunters. How cool is that about the original trilogy? Just a brief fanboy moment and go to more positive the days of more positive Star Wars news. But you can look at that lineup of bounty hunters in Empire Strikes Back, and we can probably name all of them, and we probably all had toys of them. And we probably know a little bit of expanded universe history on them, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you could throw characters in the background of a complete throwaway scene in a good movie, and people would be interested.
Sure.
But you can wedge a character like Rey into every fucking frame of The Force Awakens and not draw even an errant eyebrow raise.
Right. And I told Jeff this in our discussion a few months ago. Michael Arndt, the original writer on Force Awakens, kept trying to tell J.J. Abrams. He said this in a Writers Guild of America interview that you can look up online. He said that every time he tried to introduce Luke Skywalker earlier into the script, J.J. Abrams' characters would immediately become uninteresting. Rey, Finn, Poe.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, then we got to keep pushing him out to the end. And Arndt was like, yeah, but we got to get Skywalker in there. And he's like, they never really understood that you need to write the characters interesting from the ground up to support the story.
Yeah. And when people criticize that, the blame game continues, or the blame game starts. So,
right.
And that's why we're here. I mean, I do love the positivity Razor, especially when you brought up the bounty hunters. I had them all, the Power of the Force 2 versions, because it was the 90s. But awesome. I mean, those are just cool looking characters. Bosk, Rengar, IG-88, all of them. I'm like, there you go. I named most of them. Isn't there one more? Zuckuss is there, right?
Yeah, Zuckuss. Yeah, and I have all the ones in the 3 3/4 inch scale, but unfortunately, in the 12-inch doll scale for Kenner, they only made Boba Fett and IG-88. They got canceled. So.
Yeah. Think of an alternate reality where the Star Wars figures were that scale and the ships were that scale, but they were like really crappy in vinyl or something.
Well, that was why they went to 3 3/4 inches, because they said, we've looked at the storyboards and the artwork that Lucasfilm has sent over. I think back then it was called the Star Wars Film Company or whatever it was, and they said this is a very vehicle object driven play environment. And they said we can't have a Millennium Falcon that's 5 feet in diameter. Like, nobody's going to buy it for these dolls. They said, so we're going to have to scale this down.
Nowadays, people would. Remember did you see that image online a couple years ago, the Hot Toys display in Hong Kong where they built the scale Millennium Falcon for a display?
Yes.
Oh, God. It was so cool.
It was pretty cool, yeah.
America Crusader says, "Do you guys think L3 is a parody of social justice?" Razor, I wish you would have seen the movie because you would have had a grand old time watching that character on screen.
I don't know. So you're telling me it had like a rod and a what is so it's like a Swiss Army dildo basically? This character
it's a robot with like wide female like childbearing hips that has a really shitty attitude, a British female accent, and every chance
she even walks like a woman, like she's swinging her hips back and forth, and it's like, why would a droid do that?
I don't. Yeah. I've heard of it, but yeah, no, that sounds.
Notice how C-3PO just shuffles because he's stiff. But whatever. Maybe I'm being a droidist. I'm not sure.
Well, somebody made a good point on our podcast. They said, why would droids get rights after the Clone Wars and the battle droids? And I never thought of that before because I always think of the original and the prequels, as like the real life movies are just separate things, whatever. I never took into account that, and it makes sense that the droids would be treated a certain way. And all she does every 5 minutes is, droid rights, freedom, blah, blah, blah. And when she died, our theater clapped. Like that was the moment that I actually was like, okay, I'm happy again.
I'm in British theaters with 11 people, so you don't say or do anything. I couldn't hold my laughter. I found it so funny when she died. I was so happy as well. I was like, thank Christ she's not coming back. And then they put her into the Falcon. Do you know about this, all of you?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, when they said that, I was like, oh, is that why C-3PO said that shit in The Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
And also why Lando's like, what have you done to my ship?
Yeah.
And guys, they could resurrect her. They could draw her from the Falcon in episode 9 and put her back into a droid.
Shut up. Don't give them ideas. They haven't started filming the movie.
That also
did that.
It also really calls into question the meaning of she's the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.
Ooh. The moment L3 popped up, I went from liking the movie kind of to I hate this. And Michael, I don't know how you feel about this. We talked about the music. They actually play the Imperial March as music that the characters can react to. And I feel like that kind of killed. Yeah, when Han Solo goes to get recruited to join the Empire, it plays the Imperial March, but it changes the pitch so it's real upbeat and fun. But they have like a hologram of like Star Destroyers and the Imperial March is playing and all this shit. And I'm like, huh? And then they play the Imperial March proper when he goes to war. It's bizarre.
That is bizarre. I can't wait for my Indonesian bootleg to come through so that I can see this movie.
You can always, call us. We always got a guy.
Okay, good. I need a guy.
We did the Last Jedi review commentary before the movie even came out on digital, so we got a guy. Trust me.
Okay.
Kenrick50, what do you think will come first from Disney? A standalone Jar Jar movie or a movie about Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games?
Oh.
Jerry C says, "Is Rian Johnson done in Hollywood now? I will not watch another movie of his." That's a good point.
I hope so.
I didn't read that media call it Star Wars: The Last Rian Johnson Film. That was the
actual subtitle. He has hurt himself because before he was mildly respected. I used to say, "Oh, the guy from Looper, cool, I'm in." Then I saw the movie and I'm like, "Nope, I'm done." Like, there's nothing he could do that I will watch.
Right. It doesn't help that he's been so smug and arrogant in all of his appearances. Yeah,
humility would go a long way if they would just say, "Hey, I had some ideas, they didn't work out. I'm sorry. Next one we'll fix it and we'll be back on track." You would dupe a lot of people.
Yeah.
T-Time 21 says, "There's an old rumor in San Francisco that supposedly the old Army hospital that Lucasfilm was built over used to test biological weapons in the basement. So yes, they know how to weaponize autism." Speaking of basement, this comes from Wes's basement. Would it be worse to kill Star Wars with the new properties, or if they adapted the Thrawn trilogy with modern politics and studio meddling? Ew.
Yeah, turn the Yuuzhan Vong into Trump voters.
I really feel like that the best stories, which Star Wars derives from the mythology of the past, and with a little bit of Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers mixed in, I really feel like the best stories are the ones where no matter what your background is, when you watch it, you can relate to the through line from your own set of mores and values, and you walk away with common ground with other people, and that's where these movies really fail. Is because when we talk about the original trilogy, and even unless you were finding some tinfoil hat person, you could talk about the prequels on a movie level with people. I very rarely, if ever, got into a political discussion about the prequels with people. It was always just these movies are kind of crappy. I really wish we could get back to that place, but until they get an imagination, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it was always the political stuff was always just window dressing to kind of give you an excuse for one thing. Like anybody realize, I didn't even realize this until recently, and I've watched A New Hope a billion times over the course of my life. But the Galactic Senate is not outlawed before the movie happens; it's outlawed during the movie.
Right. Yeah.
And he just mentioned it's like a throwaway line of dialogue. It's like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, wait a minute.
More world building in that sentence than anything in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the hell? And nowadays, of course, we would have like a 5-scene sequence where we witness the travails of the oppressed underclasses.
Right.
Shoved underfoot.
Yeah. And it was just enough to make you go, oh, the situation in the galaxy is really bad. Especially, it almost heightened the tension because you're like, wow, these guys are talking about this so cavalierly from their ivory tower. You know, they're just like, oh, yes, the last remnants have been swept away. And you're like, wow, this is not good for the common person. It was great. And nowadays, they just don't have that kind of skill. Storytellers don't know how to do that.
And you were able to use your imagination for so much of that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing that first Star Wars movie and they talk about the Clone Wars and this and that and the other. Like, oh my God, this movie is great. And I keep thinking about all these lines. Like, well, obviously, Michael, you saw Star Wars before all of us, but like back then when it was so new and fresh and you were just blown away by it, like we don't get that anymore. Maybe because Star Wars is such a big thing and everyone's been involved with it or experienced it. But at the same time, like even the next generation isn't going to get that. I mean, they're not putting out anything that's going to capture the imagination of the youth. It's just, crap that they're trying to sell to old people to buy toys, and then kids aren't going to get into it because the characters are lame.
Right. Yeah. They've been chasing Gen X in the merchandising for so long because the current products that would inspire merchandising are not inspiring enough to make interesting merchandising. I know that was like a long way around my elbow to get to my ass, but what I mean by that is, the stuff that these movies could make product off of is not interesting. And so they've been chasing us because it's like, oh, well, these adults though, they're the ones that still love the stuff and they'll keep buying it. And now that's shrinking up because we've gotten to a point where it's like, you know what? Really need to be getting the kids in on this, and to do that you really need to be making better movies, and I don't want to buy the merchandising from these bad movies anymore, so peace.
I agree 100%. Golden Oil says Cecil is love, Cecil is life. Thank you, Golden Oil. If you guys don't know who Cecil is on this stream, the 3 of you, he's our favorite troll/comedy act that pops up on the High Council. So
I know Cecil well. He is an interesting dude.
He got so drunk the other night. Razor, I want you to interact with Cecil one day. I think you'd love him.
My favorite Final Fantasy character.
Ty Timmons says, I would rather see a Tommy Wiseau Star Wars movie at this point than another Star Wars film from Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I fucking love the room so much. Sonny wins. So Holdo was a Kathleen Kennedy insert.
With now that I think about it, Kylo Ren's build in that movie, he's got kind of a Wiseau thing going on. I can't watch The Last Jedi the same way ever again. I'm gonna that scene where he's shirtless in the room and he's gonna be like, I did not hit her.
At least we don't have to see Kylo Ren's ass like we did Tommy Wiseau's.
Yeah.
Comrade Commodore.
Episode 9, man. If they get that sex scene in,
I will puke. I will puke. Comrade Commodore, just $5. Thank you very much. Justin DeRosa. Her birthday, talking about Kathleen Kennedy, is 5th of MauLer. She is that kid that lives down the street that eats mayo on her crackers. Movie idea. The Adventures of Ivo First.
Oh, I mean, I'd watch that. Well, who's making it? That's the problem.
The fans. No, I don't know if the fans could do it right, because I got a lot of people sending us those like fan-made movies and stuff. And while they have the best of intentions, some of the stories are good. Like, I don't know if fans can, remove themselves to worry about the story instead of like the emotion that they're like, oh my God, I'm making Star Wars a deal. Another one from Comrade. Yeah, exactly. Comrade Commodore again says the channel is dope. Keep up the work, guys. Instead of Solo, I would rather have a Dash film with that guy who was the lead from Firefly. I think he means Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion.
He is a great actor. He's so much fun.
You know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to do like a movie adventure that takes place between Jedi and Force Awakens, assuming we haven't successfully erased it. That has Nathan Fillion in it as an older Han Solo and Sebastian Stan, who plays the Winter Soldier, as an older Mark Hamill, an older Luke Skywalker, and then find somebody who's like a Leia lookalike.
You can't tell me these things and not get me excited, because I want to watch that. I mean, I want them to try to like make right what they did to Han Solo. He was so bad in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Like, who was that character? That is not the character that we ended with Return of the Jedi.
No. Dude, you know the line where they're like, there's no one left for you to swindle anymore. I was like, that's sad.
Yeah.
It's like the criminals are making fun of him because that's how crap he's become. Wow.
Well, and there was a whole arc in that movie. It's kind of like what they did with the new Blade Runner, actually. What is it with Harrison Ford and being recast in like modern sequels to old movies and being a deadbeat dad?
Right.
What is the fucking deal with that? What is the deal with that? But anyway, no, he like the exact same thing happens in Blade Runner. He has like a surrogate daughter or whatever, and winds up abandoning her.
In Blade Runner, he is both Han and Luke from The Force Awakens.
Yeah,
he is a deadbeat dad that they have to go find.
Yes.
Which is funny.
Yeah, but in Force Awakens, it was really bad because at the end of Return of the Jedi, I mean, you basically have a full arc where he turns into a good guy who's gonna have a family and everything, and that's like clearly where they were going with that. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, they reference that in some of those shitty Ewok movies. A little later. So what the fuck?
It's because Abrams doesn't know how to progress a character. He saw Han Solo and he goes, well, you know, Han Solo's a smuggler and he's got this cool gun and he flies the
line in the film where he's like, yeah, you know, things went bad. I went back to what I know. That's it.
Yeah, I went back to what I know because that's what Abrams wanted me to be for this movie.
I feel like that's Harrison Ford's autobiography.
Right.
Well, he didn't know where the Millennium Falcon was, and that honestly is my #1 complaint about him in that film. I know we just talked about the character stuff, and I'm with you there, but how the fuck does he lose that ship? That was the dumbest plot contrivance ever.
Agreed.
It ends up on a planet. Do you like it when people say, like, no, it makes sense because it went to the Irving boys, then it went to... It's like, don't. Stop.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Stop trying.
I have some bad news. This is something I didn't know. This came from Constantia. I guess you've already discussed it at length about how Kathleen Kennedy's success is a direct result of the Title IX complaint levied against the studio where she first started. She's been rather candid about it. I've never heard that. Have you?
No.
Well, I think that may be part of what Spielberg was vaguely alluding to there, but yeah, wow.
I always assumed he banged her, but you know, whatever. I'm wrong. Mariner 1712. I think MauLer can finally confirm my Pound Lando assessment of Glover's performance.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if we're different on this, but like, I was really unimpressed with his Lando, and
thank you.
There was like 3 lines in the whole film where I was like, "Oh, he's trying." Oh, no. It's like,
he was mostly just doing a Billy. What I've seen, anyways, he was mostly just doing a Billy D impersonation with, and honestly, when he went off into Donald Glover land, he was mostly just badly overacting. He was like Black Johnny Depp. It was not great.
The voice was all right. That was the only compliment I had for him. Like, hey, the voice sounds like it would mature into Billy D. Williams, but overall, it was just, I don't know. It was like almost like watching a bad Colt 45 ad. It just
my biggest complaint is I don't know why he was in the fucking film, dude. Like,
because he's a famous black nerd. That's why he's in Spider-Man: Homecoming. I'm black. I'm popular. I like this shit. We want to.
I'm talking about the character Lando. Sorry. What do you? Because it's like, you know, what I was expecting was to see like adventures with him and Han doing shit.
Yeah.
It's more Han doing shit with his girlfriend, and then Chewie's there, and then Lando waits in the background, and I was just like, why? And he runs away, dude. Like.
They are gonna. By the way, speaking of Lando, we're gonna wait for Billy D. Williams to die before anyone recommends he be in a new movie, right? Is that pretty much the plan here?
That he might be in Episode 9. Isn't that like something that's?
Who else can they dig up from the original films and make money off of them? Like seriously, I'm not trying to sound harsh, but Carrie Fisher's dead. Luke and Han, the characters, are dead. No one gives a shit about Wedge Antilles coming out of retirement.
Yeah, they're down to the bald guy with the camcorder strapped to the back of his head in Cloud City.
His name Lobot? Yeah.
They're down to him.
You get like those ironic people who be like, I'll come out in droves. We'll all come out in droves to see Lobot come back. Like, Lobot's fine as a joke, but Lobot couldn't bring in 12 people to a cinema.
Yeah.
If Han Solo can't, like, what chance does Lobot have?
Yeah, and I'm so tired of these people in the media like, oh, well, it just goes to show you that, you know, the old characters don't matter and white men are box office poison and this and that. It's like, no. Bad movies are poison. Political garbage is poison. Shitting on your fan base is box office poison, not Han Solo. Like, don't use him as the example to like further your point. Like, oh, this movie's flopping. People don't like this shit. We need to move forward with strong female leads and this and that and the other. Like, make it about, you know, a good movie. Genitalia be damned. Let's see. Got a couple more here. Sorry about this, guys. They just keep flowing in. Thank you to everyone. Where did we go? Can somebody please do a video where Kathleen's head is photoshopped onto everyone Darth Vader has ever choked before the movie? I'm fine with that. Let's see. Victor Anderson, thank you guys so much. Scarlock, when you were talking about Kathleen Kennedy guiding the ship, all I could think about was her turning it around and suicidally ramming it down the audience's throat, a la General Admiral Studies or Admiral Gender Studies.
Yeah, no kidding. I've always said that. Like, how we're going to subvert gender roles. We're going to really show that women can do things. And then the moment they let the chick drive the ship, she crashes into something.
Yeah. Look at Rose Tico.
I was going to say, yeah, that's another one.
What the fuck?
I mean, they're doubling down the stereotypes, too. And one thing they don't even take into account is the black dudes chasing after the white girl and the Asian. Like, that's a stereotype in real life, and they're playing up to it hardcore with John Boyega's Finn. So I'm just like... You guys are doing one thing, but you're also doing something else, and it's not helping out. Like, you can't even get your cause right. Jacob Klein, we need more plutonium. Is that a Back to the Future reference? I don't know. I'm sorry. Christopher McClure says, screw it. I'm partying like the Ewoks at the end of Return of the Jedi. You know, removing Johnson's head for a drum and burning my father.
Yeah, I think the plutonium reference is wanting to go back in time to when Star Wars was better.
Yeah,
we can't get back.
3 years. Sakuya Izoi, can somebody please do a video Drone Fury. Lucasfilm has become the GameStop of the sci-fi franchises. Remember to relax your muscles and breathe in. Bite the pillow. They're going in dry. Ugh. Benny Farmer. Unless they manage to rope in Lando or make Luke a Force Ghost, I don't see how Episode 9 will do better than The Last Jedi. Now that almost all the original Star Wars cast is gone. The real Callum Anderson, seeing both world-class bullshitters and Razorfist coming together is like seeing Spider-Man and Daredevil team up. Don't have any questions, but wanted to say I love both. Your guys' content is great. Keep up the work. Good work.
Which one of us is the blind guy whose mutant power is to see?
You get to pick. I know you're such a big Mark Waid fan, and he's written more Daredevil than Spider-Man. So.
You know, wait. I just realized something. We could get around all this if Episode 9's title is Star Wars from a Bad Dream. Because then it would be The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi from a bad dream. That would be, okay, right? And then he wakes up, and he's like, oh, I just dreamed I almost killed my nephew. And then he just like wanders off to go train him again or something. He's like a little kid.
So it's like,
again, you're giving me ideas that would be great. Stop giving me hope.
Man, all of a
way
sudden
too creative. You stop that right now.
We wake up and see Patrick Duffy in a shower.
Yeah, right? We're at that point. Like, we're at that place where
when are we going to get Porkins a solo Star Wars story film? I think that's an important story to tell.
Can I tell you my favorite thing in the world about Jack Porkins?
Please.
I'll tell you just for a moment. My favorite thing in the world about Porkins is that he dies saying he has no problem. That's my favorite thing in the world. He's like, no, I'm all right. I can take it. And it's like, no, Porkins, pull up. No, I'm all right. No, I'm all right. Ah! Like, how do you do that?
Is he the first rebel to die, or did somebody else die first?
That one guy says, he's like, I can't see him or whatever. And he's like, I'm hit. Ah! And then he blows up.
The Steve Guttenberg guy.
Yeah.
I'm all trouble over here.
You know what's nice about... I do love Porkins, too. I think I bought his Power of the Force 2 figure, or that'll be the Power of the Jedi figure. But I do have a Porkins figure somewhere. He is fat, and he barely fits in the X-Wing. Do you guys remember that old rumor that they used to put on the internet, like he was lowered by a crane to get into the X-Wing and all that shit?
Oh man!
Have you guys seen the Family Guy version where it's just his body's hanging out of the X-Wing?
I got the Blu-ray box set. Those are better Star Wars movies than the new ones.
Absolutely. They're a celebration of the Star Wars films. That's what they are.
My mind was blown when I found out that was Eckhart from Batman.
Think about the future.
You ain't got no future, Jack.
Dude, I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark this morning before we were on this, and I was looking at him. I'm like, there's William Hootkins again, and Indiana Jones. Like, that dude had, for being in every movie for like 5 minutes, he was in a lot of good movies.
Yeah.
Man, one of these nights we're gonna do a Batman '89 stream, Michael, and you got to be on it. You guys are always invited to those. Like, oh, I love that movie so much.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
I watch it all the time at the gym. I got it on my phone. It's a bootleg, but still, I bought it on Blu-ray. I don't feel guilty. Michael C, you guys are the best. I agree with all of you. Thank you, C. Random person, never suggest bringing her back again. Don't give Disney any ideas. I guess they're talking about how to bring back L337.
No.
Bryce Brierly, I want to hear more about L37 and the Droid Justice Warriors. I hear that the DJWs were a big reason for the Republic disarming after the fall of the Emperor.
The fact that that's a thing that happened, they disarmed themselves after a fascist government was finally destroyed. Like, why? Because that's the whole premise for the Resistance, is that Leia was like, you guys are disarming yourselves when they could rise again. And it's like, yeah, why are you doing that only like 20 years after they've fallen?
Like, was there any forethought to any of this?
I know there was a thought that, hey, the first movie worked, let's do that again. I know that was definitely a thought.
Yeah, and there was also discussion in the middle of Rogue One's production. They were quoted as saying this, that the reshoots had a lot to do with them in the wake of the success of Force Awakens wanting to make Rogue One like Force Awakens. Yeah. So they did get obsessed with that, which makes it even weirder why they let Rian Johnson do what he did with Last Jedi, because I would have thought that they would have held tighter to the reins to the sequel to their $2 billion darling. So,
yeah.
I have a theory that Rian Johnson just told Kathleen Kennedy everything she wanted to hear, and then somebody got into her ear and told her what a visionary Rian was, so she didn't want to seem old and out of touch like people accused George Lucas of being, so she just kind of went on with everything he said to seem, like, I get it, guys, I'm the cool one here. So her ego, I think, was roped in by Rian Johnson, and that's why he got what he got. That's just a guess.
I'm sure they feel Star Wars is too big to fail as well, right?
Yeah, true.
That make him a tunnel visionary? That's what it sounds like to me. Rian Johnson... the guy, his claim to fame is Looper. Like really, I understand people like Looper, but Looper, guys.
Well, think about it. Josh Trank's claim to fame was Chronicle, and so they hire him without even waiting for Fantastic Four to be in theaters.
Ooh.
And then they're like, oh, we've heard he was a psycho on the set, and then, oh, we better fire him. That's why it's so funny. People are like, when the Boba Fett movie got announced recently, they're like, oh, hopefully this time they won't fire the director midstream. I'm like, too late. Trank was already the director of that. This is the second announcement for Boba Fett.
Wait, so he's been taken off it now, is he?
Oh, a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, Trank was fired like 2 years ago.
What is it about Boba Fett that shit always gets canceled? I think a video game recently with Boba Fett was canceled, too.
Yeah, 13, right?
Yeah, 13. Yeah, Trank was fired at Star Wars Celebration. Like, he hadn't even done his panel yet on that, and they basically went to his hotel room and were like, look, we heard about all the crap that went down on Fantastic Four. You just really need to go. And he was like, okay. Yeah.
Michael, would you ever go to another Star Wars Celebration?
Never been to one, and I'm not going now. So.
I'm only going for the channel. I'm kind of dreading it because it's so damn expensive. But we told the audience we're going to do it. It's like $215 a person.
I've got so many friends that want me to go to those and have been for several years. And I'm just like, guys, and these are people who don't even like these movies. And I'm like, guys, why are you going to? I know you want to do it for the channel, but for these friends of mine, I'm like, guys, you're just giving them more money. Like, just
They like the
stop.
movies, or
They don't. That's the funny part. They don't. And I'm like, why are you going? You've seen enough people in stormtrooper costumes in your whole life to, sink a battleship. I don't understand what you're going to see different here.
Well, I'm shooting for interviews with people, fans, people that are like low-level actors and shit, anything, to see what we can get out of them. See how, it'll be interesting to see how the tide has turned come Celebration. Was it 9?
Well, do we have numbers for like turnout? Because that would be interesting to see how that might have changed over time.
I'm sure people can dig up numbers. Honestly, the only reason I ever follow the Celebrations is when they announced the Blu-rays a couple years ago and whatever new action figures will be coming out, because I've been waiting on that Bespin Han Solo in the Black Series for, God, like 6 years now. So
yeah,
keep waiting. I heard a rumor that it was coming out soon, but maybe Comic-Con.
I don't know what Hasbro's deal is with Bespin Han, but they always drag that character out. Like in the 3 3/4-inch vintage series, it took forever for them to bring out the standard Bespin Han. It was weird.
Yeah, back when in 2010 when they didn't relaunch the vintage, but when they did that big push in 2010 for the vintage, they put out Han in Hoth gear, but it wasn't Hoth gear. He had the big jacket. And the 1 second scene where he welded the Millennium Falcon's landing gear, that was a thing.
Right. Yeah. It's literally one shot where he's like, "Okay, it's all right, try it. Oh, turn it off, turn it off." That shot. I'm like, wait, you wasted a figure slot on that guy?
And the other figures were excellent in the wave. That was a really good Luke. Well, the hips were a little funny, but the Princess Leia's good and kind of pricey now.
Yeah,
you're right. They do drag their asses with Bespin. I'm waiting for SH Figure Arts to put out one.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good.
One from Forge. I was wondering if you guys think that the general audience will think twice before watching episode 9 because of the positive reviews The Last Jedi received. Yes, I do. You guys?
I'm not gonna go see episode 9, and I would hope that a number of other people don't either, especially ones who didn't like Last
I would
Jedi.
be crucified if I didn't see that film. My fans would be like, "Where's the video?"
Yeah, I mean, I understand like critics and so forth who need to offer their opinions on it. I totally get that. But at the same time, like if you're just a general audience and you've already kind of stopped going to the movies, because Last Jedi, remember, made a lot less.
Like 750 less, 750 mil.
Yeah, a lot less. So if you already didn't care what the second chapter said, how much are you going to care what the third chapter says? If you're already not up to speed on the story. A huge number of people decided not to see it. So I just don't see it happening.
Well, do you remember how they kept saying, "Oh, well, The Empire Strikes Back made so much less than, A New Hope or just Star Wars. It's going to be the same thing with this. Return of the Jedi rebounded so episode 9. It's like, Jesus. Like, there's always some denial and excuse.
Oh, they reference the OT every single time they can find any vague connection to be like, see, can't be bad if the OT has it. It's like, that's not even necessarily true, just so you know.
Not at all. I mean, they'll throw the original trilogy under the bus to say, "Oh, the old characters are old, they can't act, blah, blah, blah." But then the new ones have a misstep. "Oh, well, this one did it before, we have to forgive." It's like, Jesus, guys. Change the record. Gary Bernoska, USA Today had an article that Star Wars needs to have sex scenes. No, don't give them ideas. We all agreed that one was kind of dumb, right?
I don't know, man. Rose Tico and Finn, I think
even Van Skyver will have a fucking heart attack, dude, if he sees that. That dude's obsessed with Rose Tico.
Yeah, everyone wants to know what's going to happen with Poe and Rey after the look they give each other at the end of The Last Jedi. And I was just like, why are we desperate for this? Like,
she doesn't exude like the thing is, they're trying so hard to make her that I don't need no man character, that type of character, that it's like if she does end up with a dude or she gets pregnant by the Force or something like that, it's going to be so stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if she's pregnant, but her face certainly is. What is going on there with the between installments? She is gaining mass.
Just in her cheeks.
Yeah, like she's storing nuts for winter.
Well, her teeth are big enough to crack them. God damn, those are. I have a female listener that emails me to tell me that, "Oh, what you say about Daisy Ridley is so mean and disrespectful." I'm like, first off, it's a joke. Secondly, like, calm down. I didn't say anything about you. Like, people are getting too attached to her. I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Rhino 4563. You guys kick ass. The moistness returns. Oh Jesus, no more moist shit. I swear to God. Okay, now this was a super chat. How about you get the guys who wrote the cinematics for Star Wars The Old Republic? Because last time I saw those 5-minute cinematics, they had more storytelling and character development than your 400-plus minute episode 7 and 8. My God. Gary Bernoski again, Rogue One was a toy disaster because kids do not want to play with toys of old dead characters and $300 AT-ACTs. What do you say about that, Michael?
Yeah, I would agree that the vehicles were overpriced and undersized, so that doesn't help. The figures themselves were characters that could have been more interesting. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I want to see Gareth Edwards' original cut. I know that Tony Gilroy has come out in that podcast and said they were in terrible trouble. I'm not even a fan of Star Wars. They could go nowhere but up once I started helping them with the movie. I wasn't there, so I don't know how much of his word to believe versus the word of Gareth Edwards. But I think there was a war film in there, and I think it was a good film, and I'd like to see it before I buy the official line from Lucasfilm on Rogue One. And I think if that film had been made, then the toys would have done better because the characters would have been more kinetic.
I still want to see that alternate cut of Star Wars, like the work print that they always talk about. I know with this channel and stuff that Lucasfilm would never let me, within 10 miles of it. Man, I would kill to see the original one that Brian De Palma and all those guys saw back in, 76?
Yeah.
I don't understand why they didn't do that. With we were talking about Blade Runner earlier. Blade Runner they released that when they did the big anniversary collection. They put the work print version on there with the temp music and it's a radically different film. It's actually really cool.
Yeah, and I don't understand why Star Wars has been kept so sacrosanct from all that stuff. I mean, it's a movie where everybody's infinitely interested in its history. So if we could see all the different cuts on one gift set for each of the original trilogy movies, that would sell like hotcakes.
No, especially
George Lucas though, because George Lucas wants to try and push that it was always meant to be the way it is.
Yeah, but
probably.
Because, there's a lot of criticism from Red Letter Media about stuff like that, where they essentially put forth that lied about most of the history of the Star Wars.
Which is why I think they should, since they own it now outright, they should just make the gift set because they own it. George Lucas what is he going to do? He sold it.
I think Disney might be on his page with that, though. They might be like, let's let everyone think that this is the perfect set of film.
I think they need to go, if they're banking on special edition changes to keep the movie floating forever, I really think they need to fix a couple of them before they go down that route.
No shit.
There's a couple of those. I love A New Hope. It is my second favorite movie of all time, but the Jabba the Hutt scene needs to go in terms of storytelling. It looks like shit too. Obviously, Greedo shooting before Han. All that stuff needs to go. Some effect shots work, but, that's neither here nor there. But to jump on your Blade Runner thing, I own that cut. I'd buy a version of Star Wars for each film that has 5 different edits. It's not even an issue. And I think my love of those old movies will supersede my hatred for Disney and all that crap. If they would give us something like that, it's a step in the right direction.
Yep, I agree.
Would you do it for The Force Awakens?
No.
I had 2 copies of Force Awakens when I found out they were doing the first time they were doing deleted scenes for the original release, and I was like, I've got to see what hit the cutting room floor that might have made this movie better. If Abrams had kept his scissors off of it, there was nothing useful. And then when they brought out the second version with 3D, it had a commentary, and I listened to the commentary. That was very enlightening. And then I took both of those discs and I gave them to friends, and I was like, get this shit out of my house.
Did you see the deleted scene?
Yeah.
There's a particular scene that the whole internet didn't understand. It was cut where Luke mourns for Han. Why there's nothing. I'd love to just be a fly on the wall in that conversation where he said, "Yeah, cut that. We don't need that."
Well, that's Rian Johnson. He's like, I really need the green milk coming out of the monster boobs. I need that.
I think the alien tit milk is the key to all this. I think.
Yeah, it's obvious that Rian Johnson, not just because Luke died, but every choice like that indicates Rian Johnson despises the character of Luke Skywalker, and I feel like he creatively tortured Mark Hamill throughout this entire process and enjoyed it. I think he enjoyed doing it.
I mean, I thought it wasn't even controversial to say. It's like, Rian Johnson doesn't seem to like the OT, does he? Does anyone think he does?
Hell no.
No.
I don't know why he was hired, It was a bad decision all around. To watch that documentary, The Director and the Jedi, which if it's on YouTube for free and you want to waste 2 hours of your life, watch it. You'll learn a lot about that man. It'll just make you angry.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
If you go back and watch Empire of Dreams on the original Star Wars trilogy DVD box set, yeah, at least for me, I respected George Lucas more. You got to see what he went through to make the films. You saw a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. It just made Star Wars more relatable, and you loved it. I loved it. This new one just made me go, "Oh, this is so corporately produced," and they're so worried about the Canto Bite scene, and that's all they're focused on. Like that's why the rest of the movie suffers, because he's trying to tell a message about classism and shit that doesn't need to be in Star Wars.
Yeah.
James A. Razor, what can we do to save the franchise?
We can. Well, honestly, more than anything, first off, you have to get it off that annual assembly line. First off, because once it's no longer special to hear the Star Wars fanfare, you've lost a huge chunk of the Star Wars appeal right away. Even if you're still going to make shit movies, you'd be doing better if you were making less of them. Because at least then people would be excited to go see a Star Wars film again. I never agree with the annual thing. I think that's a huge chunk of the problem. But
I've heard there's plans like going all the way through to 2030, isn't there? Like there's vague plans.
Oh,
Star Wars film for every year.
Lunacy, absolute lunacy.
It's just
Disney
sad
will
to
burn
think that
down that happens.
by 2030 we could actually have, what is that, 12 plus there's 22 Star Wars films. It's like it's like they're trying to outdo James Bond at this point.
Don't say shit like that, man, because that'll happen. What is there 22 good films somewhere that they can make? Because I say no.
I mean, what do you make at that point? Look, number of films isn't even the problem. I mentioned earlier, it's a space serial, it's a sci-fi serial. But here's the problem: you're not making them like that. The movies are nothing like a Flash Gordon kind of movie. So it's doing it in this crazy episodic fashion. It doesn't really work because you're not treating the material as if that's what it is.
You have the episodes. We also have that they've made 2 films now that have come from selective pieces of dialogue, like from other films.
Exactly.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish they would do that for other movies. I'm saying that ironically, because I mean, Lucas was guilty of doing that with the Clone Wars. He said, Obi-Wan said about the father in the Clone Wars, boom, fucking 10 years of our lives was spent between episodes 2 and the Clone Wars series and all that stuff. And they're doing it. At least they did it right there. I don't know how you guys felt, but I liked the Clone Wars, and it made me like some of the prequel stuff a little more. Not love it, but at least I thought, like, well, at least I get why Anakin's this great hero and this and that. Like, how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, it was a fun show. It was cool.
I'm actually going to be watching it very soon because my fans are getting tired of me not having seen it. I was like, fine, I'll watch it.
I liked a good majority of the Clone Wars. I thought it was a good show. There were some episodes, like with any long-running series, I didn't like, but for the most part, I thought it was well done.
Yeah. My only the thing I'll say to you, MauLer, is the beginning's a little rough in terms of like.
Oh, we've been warned. Apparently, don't judge from season 1 alone. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, it definitely gets better. England DG says Mel Brooks comes back to make Spaceballs 2: The Search for More Money. Top speed is now faster than Ludacris. It will be god fucking speed.
Actually, a pretty good joke.
Yeah. Mexi Man and Cheese, not only did they make Lando pansexual, which is SJW for bisexual, but they made him a cuck. His girlfriend was in that spaceship that he lost to Han.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people pointed this out. It's like her whole thing is the desire for freedom, right? And then she gets plugged in and chained down to a ship that belongs to someone she doesn't even like.
No shit!
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's a horrible ending for a character, I suppose.
It really shows you the only thing Disney loves more than ham-fisted, gender politics is the plot. Basically plot. She is essentially a slave to a plot device. That's basically what happened there.
Oh, speaking of slaves, Razor, they actually go and show, like, remember how they would like check your slave's teeth and all that shit? They did that to Han and Chewie. Like, they really laid on this whole slavery thing like, really thick in this movie. It was kind of weird when they got the Kessel. I think they were gonna neuter him too, weren't they, MauLer? Like, didn't they talk about cutting off Han Solo's dick?
He said, what does clipped mean? because they're going to clip him.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think L3 makes some kind of joke about it or laughs. I don't know. Like, but yeah, he gets out of it before that's going to happen. But it's implied to, like, be cut off their dicks, basically.
Now,
like, okay.
Now, Michael, there's one thing you would like from Solo is, well, I don't know if you'd like it, but at least you get a chuckle. There's callback to Lando's skiff guard costume in this movie. He keeps it on the Millennium Falcon. So Woody Harrelson's character wears it, and it was kind of funny. And then the girl tries on one of his capes, and it's the Cloud City cape. So those were two little callbacks I thought were all right.
So he already had his skiff guard disguise before he had.
Yeah.
So he just has that around? Like, what is he, Inspector Gadget?
I thought it was silly that he has a fucking cape collection. I was like, why would he have 1,000 capes? And it's like, Lando loves capes. He's all about capes. And it's like, she tries to put a fire out with his cape at one point, and he's like, don't do that. And I'm just like, why have you reduced Lando to cape guy?
Yeah, doesn't he like not even wear a cape in Return of the Jedi?
He does. He wears one. Yeah, he's got it's like a light.
Like, I thought I remembered him not wearing it, like during the big space battle at the end there with Nien Nunb.
Yeah, he doesn't probably have it in the seat, but when he's standing there talking to Han about how he's not going to scratch the Falcon, he's got this cape on.
Oh, okay.
I thought of the toy instantly, the vintage toy, because he has that weird soft goods cape. I was like, yeah, he does have a cape.
Right. Yeah, but why he would have a skiff guard disguise outfit in the Falcon with his capes is a little... Is he a cosplayer? Does he go to a lot of conventions? You know?
There's a scene where they go to Lando's closet. Like, that's a thing where Han and Kira make out in Lando's closet. Because the Millennium Falcon is, meant to be so much different. And in many ways, it doesn't work. Like, I don't like the new design of the Millennium Falcon. And then the thing falls off in the front to make it look like the old one. And it's just, it's too forced.
Hey, be careful there. That's my costume for Camino Comic-Con. You got to be careful with that.
And I watched a review. I will let them remain nameless because there's no point in trying to witch hunt or anything here. But someone made a point that it was really good how we spent the Han Solo film not putting Han in any kind of danger to make us, think like, oh, well, that's pointless because he's going to make it. And I was like, so when he's in the middle of the storm where the ship is about to be destroyed and they just make it out in time, I was like, I guess that's not threatening his life. When he's at gunpoint from his like friend throughout the film who betrays him, I was like, I guess he's not in trouble there either. The Empire is shooting at him and narrowly missing in the train heist. I was like, I guess he's not in danger there? Question mark. I was like, did anyone watch the same film as me? He's put in danger all the time, and I was like, it's so pointless because there's these other films he's in. I was like, so he's gonna be okay, and it would be fine, I think, if the story wasn't so focused on putting him in danger constantly. I was just like, there's no tension. Have you seen the trailer where they threaten to kill Chewie?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I feel bad for Chewie. And he was the only thing I liked about The Force Awakens. I was blown away that Chewie got a character arc in that movie. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, Chewie! And then it's been an absolute precipitous plummet every single movie since then.
Just clarify, what would you say is the arc for him in Force Awakens?
He sees his friend die, and then he goes and gets he goes all ape shit and wants revenge and so forth. It was actually pretty cool.
I like it as a moment. I would agree. Just
we actually saw we actually saw some emotion from him, and it was cool. You actually got to connect with Chewie a little bit more than normal, because usually he's just set dressing a little bit. And then every single movie since then, the CGI touched up Chewie, he was barely in The Last Jedi. He was mostly just fucking around with porgs.
He's comic relief in that film. It's really sad.
Oh, it's depressing. Yeah.
He should have blown up with Han and the Millennium Falcon in The Force Awakens.
He should have fucking punched Luke in the face after he just didn't give a shit about any of this.
You're right.
Picked him up and thrown him and said, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah. Luke should have grabbed his lightsaber, they should have threw him on the Falcon, and they should have went.
Could you imagine Chewie just tying Luke up and taking him onto the Falcon? I'd just be like, yes.
He should have ripped off his robot hand.
And slapped him with
it. Boom. Did you notice that when Luke dies in The Last Jedi, his robot hand becomes one with the Force? Like, it doesn't just go clink, just goes away too.
Yeah, it would have been really funny if it just clanked on the floor. But then again, the whole movie's a joke, so...
The whole movie is a joke. I don't know. When I think about it, I get kind of like... I feel weird that we actually live in a world where that's the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I said it as the end of my series is like a sort of depressing note that it's like we had one shot and that's what we got. We're in that timeline, guys. It sucks. Like,
This
think of
is
all the
where Biff is
universes that
corrupt
they got
and
away with that
powerful.
film. It's just too late
Yeah.
now. All the characters are either ruined or the actors are dead. So it's just like you've lost your chance. It's over.
I guess we should have seen this coming though, because Indiana Jones got ruined 10 years ago. I only bring it up because the other week was the 10th anniversary of that film, and so Indiana Jones was ruined first. They kind of messed up James Bond a bit, in my opinion, and then Han and Luke are just not even there anymore.
Dude, we could honestly list over like 100 different franchises that have been ruined with new takes on it. I mean, Jurassic World's coming out in a week now, isn't it?
Yeah, sadly.
And that was another movie that, man, people loved, and I was just like,
Yeah.
did we watch the same film? Were we watching the same fucking thing? I like The Lost World more than that movie. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, people?
Yeah, I just watched Jurassic World for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and Melinda and I were appalled at how bad it was.
It blows my mind, and there's good actors in it too. It's like, what the fuck? You got Vincent D'Onofrio in that goddamn movie.
I mean, dude, the trailer for the next one where they've got Jeff Goldblum going, "Life finds a way," and it's like, oh, he did.
It's a shame he doesn't do his line from. Shame he doesn't do his line from Death Wish. You know, I kill rich cunts.
Actually, he says in the trailer as well. It's really cringy. Welcome to Jurassic World.
Yeah.
What?
And I was just like, why would you? What context are you fucking saying that?
Welcome, Jurassic World.
And so when we went to see Solo, by the way, me and my friend, there was an ad for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I think it's called, and they you see the two actors, you know, the main characters, Chris Pratt and I forget the girl's name. Then they're trying to sell you the film. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna have dinosaurs. It's gonna be incredible, but we're gonna give you something new." And I was just like, "This is an odd ad." And then she says at the end, "Jeff Goldblum's also back." So, and it's like a silence, and then she carries on, and I was just like, "Wow, that was blatant." It's like,
wow.
It's just like Star Wars. It's like, look who it is. Look, you like them, don't you? And you're like, yeah.
Applause. It's like in that Jan Silent Bob Strikes Back. Look, kids, Mark Hamill. Applause. I never saw Jurassic World. Hell, I didn't see Jurassic Park until 2013. So
Really,
I don't have a connection to Jurassic Park at all.
I love Jurassic Park. I love that film.
The first two flicks are great. 3's not so good, and Jurassic World, I just kind of threw my hands up and said, "Why?"
Well, Michael, you put out a really good video about that new Jurassic Park toy line.
Yeah.
Do you think Star Wars can rebound and do something on a smaller scale, but still entice people in terms of like quality?
Yeah, I think so, but I think it's got to get away from Hasbro to do that, scarily enough. I mean, you got to remember, Hasbro is not Kenner. They bought Kenner, they absorbed it, but they got to get away from Hasbro. Hasbro's brain trust needs a flush, and I think Star Wars' merchandise needs to get away from them for a while and go to another company. But yes, I think there could be a legacy collection style toy line for Star Wars like there is for Jurassic Park, and I think it would do real well.
Well, I had this discussion with someone, either some of the guys from the podcast or somebody just today. I don't know what, like, they're going to do a Star Wars Episode 9 merchandise, because we've seen it scaled back so much from 7 to 8, Rogue One, this Solo. Without Toys R Us and that kind of chain to put stuff out in, you're not going to see the big displays. I say Episode 9's figure line is like 5 figures and 1 or 2 vehicles, and that's it. Like, the day of Star Wars toys taking over an entire section at your toy store and selling out crazy and having 50 figures in a line is over.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. You know, the Toys R Us situation is really bad for Hasbro and Mattel, because they account for between 10 to 15% of their sales annually. Yeah. So them not being there, they're in trouble.
Well, I just don't see why Hasbro would even try to push out like a big line anymore, too, because I guess they figure like, oh, well, without the toys stores, we don't have enough shelf space. Like, have you seen the videos? Well, maybe my fans have sent them to me, where toy stores across the country have the Star Wars tags up, but they replaced it with Jurassic World stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
I remember, you remember when KB was still around?
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day? Yeah, I remember, here's how fucking huge Star Wars was, got even in the 90s. I remember there was a KB right near my place, and movies would come and go. I remember Independence Day came out, and different movies that had lots of toy lines that were really successful. That Star Wars corner stayed there and did not move. It was always there. It was always right at the front of the store. You could not keep Luke Skywalker on the racks. It was crazy. I would go back all the time because I was big into Star Wars. But that's really what's it's the absolute opposite of today, where you go back and they've got the same toys on the shelves they had in 2015 when The Force Awakens came out. And absolute lunacy. I think I put a video up on Twitter just perusing the racks at Target because I was curious. It was a sobering experience.
And the only reason I keep bringing up the toys is because Star Wars and its merchandise had this harmonious relationship. Yeah. I mean, you know this, Michael, so I'm not telling you anything new, but the whole 3 3/4 line really is, thanks to Star Wars and all that stuff. So it's weird how the decline in movies and the decline in toys and all that stuff, it almost feels like the universe's way of saying, like, it's just time to end all the Star Wars stuff. Like, there's nothing, like, every front, it seems to be failing on every front.
Oh, yeah, it's symbiotic. So go the toys, so goes the movies, so goes the movies, so go the toys. I mean, at Star Wars' height, the toys were the best line that ever was, and they sold really well. And now it's the opposite for both. It's weird, but it's poetic.
I'm thinking what they could do is take the NECA approach with something like Terminator or Predator, where they can just target older collectors with a higher price point and still be affordable for kids. Like my friend's kid has a couple Predator figures and stuff from the NECA line, but it's of a higher quality and it's sold in a different way. I mean, to me, I think that's the only way I see it staying in your regular toy stores.
I think the whole thing has to collapse from the merchandising perspective. I think the Star Wars brand needs to lose enough value that Hasbro drops it, and then somebody else can negotiate better rates from Disney for it because it's not worth as much as an IP from a toy perspective. And then we get the more affordable, broader toy lines again from it.
How close do you think we are to
that? Sadly, it's really going to depend on. It'll be interesting to see what Hasbro puts out between Solo and Episode 9, since we have the largest gap we've ever had in the Disney era, 18 months. But it's really going to depend on what they produce or don't produce for Episode 9 and how good or bad that movie is. And I know by default the movie will be terrible. So
you mentioned Predator. Have you guys seen the trailer for the film coming up September?
Yes.
I mean, I didn't realize you could just continuously kill Predator as an IP, just over and over again.
I wasn't impressed with it either.
Putting Eric Foreman as one of the main characters in a Predator movie didn't clue you the fuck in there.
That was wow.
Did I tell you, by the way?
The AVP movies as well.
Oh man, that was so great little story. Speaking of Eric Foreman, what's his name? Topher Grace. He was about to be. He was Venom, right, in Spider-Man 3. So he was about to be. The news had come out that he had been cast. I think this was about around 2006, and I was working at a comic store right across from a Suncoast. Right, and this Suncoast employee would come in all the time and tell me tales and what have you. So if this story's bullshit, I blame him. But he told me that celebrities would occasionally come into Suncoast to buy movies, and Topher Grace walked in, and of course the news was already out that he was going to be Venom and so forth, and it was not really common. It was common knowledge at that point, but the movie wasn't out. Topher Grace has a big pile of DVDs and he sets them on the counter, and the employee is like, oh, hey, I like your stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, thanks, whatever. He was, trying to keep his head down, trying not to attract attention. And he says, so I heard you're going to be Venom. He's like, oh yeah, whatever. He goes, don't fuck up. And Topher Grace gives him the shittiest look known to man and grabs his DVDs and leaves. But yeah, speaking of Topher Grace.
Well, so much for that advice.
He didn't listen to him at all. Have you guys ever heard the rumor that there's a Topher Grace edit of Star Wars?
Oh my God.
Yes, there is. He showed it to his friends.
Okay.
No one else has ever seen it. But he actually threw a party so all of his friends could come over and watch his fan edit of Star Wars prequels. You take for that what you will.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say about that. Did Venom kill his career, by the way? Because he seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, he went away after that movie, man. He went away.
Yeah,
because that '70s show had ended the year before.
Yeah, and he tried to come back with
Predators?
No, it was the '80s movie.
Take Me Home Tonight.
Take Me Home Tonight, but that got shelved for almost 2 years after it was made. It got held up in some sort of post-production hellscape, and then it finally came out, and by that point, nobody cared. I actually was one of like 7 people that saw that in the theater, and it was shocking too because the movie's called Take Me Home Tonight, but the Take Me Home Tonight song by Eddie Money is not even in the movie. It's like, what?
That's a guilty pleasure movie for me. I'm not saying it's great, but I really have fun watching it.
It's not a bad movie. It's just a movie that missed its window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Party Elm Sabi says, I wish I wasn't at work. I'll have to watch this later. Love you guys. Hashtag the Empire did nothing wrong. What do you there's obviously this joke online about how the Empire was right and the rebels were the assholes. What do you guys think of that just joke or meme or whatever?
I like to think that the Empire actually did satisfy a lot of systems in the galaxy in terms of their reign. Like they had a decent, I don't know, trade route setup or political system that allowed for some kind of prospering nations here and there. I like to believe that they actually, like Palpatine's sort of addressing people at the end of the prequels, like, we're going to build an empire. I like to think that at first, or at least for the first decade, let's say, he was actually doing things that people were like, yeah, this guy's right. Yeah. And he turned it, and that's what got everyone on board with taking the Empire down. But, we don't get a lot of information there. So,
yeah, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
Todd L has a question. What do you guys think of Campia's 5 Reasons to Fire Kathleen Kennedy video?
Oh, I watched it. I watched it twice, and I thought it was largely on point, but knowing John Campia's background and his connections, while I did agree that it might seem brave, it's also he's weighing what's more important, my audience, which provides my livelihood, or my access to this one franchise. And it's like, well, if anybody was in that position, they would choose their livelihood over their access. So not to sound too cynical about it, but I felt like it was him behind the 8 ball on this one.
It was a cloying political move. Let's be real here.
Right.
Let's throw that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll watch it tomorrow.
It's kind of like
people with it, though.
video game. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I heard from different spheres that like a lot of his fans were really pissed because the idea was that he was advocating for how there's too much toxicity in the fan base, and then makes a video directed at one person specifically about why things are going to hell and stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, that could cost him quite a bit of his credibility, actually.
Yeah, and while being brave at the same time, because I thought the strongest part of the video was when he said, Kathleen Kennedy has done nothing to mitigate the divisiveness of the fan base and the fracturing of the fan base. She has been silent on this issue. She has not assisted in any way in trying to re-inject goodwill into her customer and audience base. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that's pretty direct. So good on you.
Where has she been? Because usually she pops up at all these things. Wasn't she kind of radio silent outside of the premiere of Solo for like, a wave and a walk down the red carpet?
Yeah, some people have been mentioning, I don't remember if it was Jeremy Johns or Campia or somebody else I've watched, but some people have said that she has been mysteriously absent from the landscape for a while, and people are wondering if it's because everybody knows she's bad PR right now. And there's even saying they're wondering if she's even going to show up to Star Wars Celebration, because there's so much not hatred, but anger towards the way she's handled the company right now.
Would Disney fire her just because enough people ask? Would that be enough of a reason to do it?
That would be, I don't know, but you could spin it as, look at all the money we've lost because of your bad decisions.
I know, but like if Disney genuinely believes she's doing a fine job, not a great job, it's a fine job, they don't believe any of that she's ruining it, but enough people are saying, we're not going to watch Star Wars until she's gone. Do you think that would be enough for them to go, we'll buy you out, just go away?
Huh. Well, there was one video I watched that analyzed the Campia video, I can't remember. I've been watching so many videos lately, and the guy said that he feels like, oh, maybe it was Ethan? Maybe it was one of Ethan's videos where they were saying that Kathleen's probably already gone. Like she's probably already let go, and they're just waiting for, the time to run out. And kind of like how Zack Snyder was actually let go from DC in March, but then they didn't announce it till May.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's all politics out there and how to save face. Oh, Kathleen Kennedy resigned. I'll be surprised if they don't say that. Well, she resigned from the stress of the fan base and blah blah blah, and they even try to spin it on us some more. I wouldn't be surprised.
Do you think it's because, like, I don't think they're going to suddenly be amazing films if she's gone, to be honest.
No, not at all. It's too late.
Like, do you think it'll be like, see, you guys can give it a chance now because she's gone? I'd just be like, it's more complicated than just her.
Dude, they could fire her the week before the movie comes out and tell everyone that, she wasn't involved, X, Y, and Z, and they'll try to spin it a week before the movie. One of you guys brought up the 18-month cycle. I think this is the perfect time for them, in terms of PR spin, to distance themselves from her and then reaffirm the fan base that, hey, we're on the right path to fix this. Even if they don't fix anything, and even if she's still involved, it'd be a good time to try to start soothing the fans. Because look, Solo's going to make $28 million this weekend or something. That's the estimated projection. Like, that's an embarrassing low amount for Star Wars. And it's was it like 64% drop off? Like some crazy amount like that. So they got to do that in a wise way in this window. This is their chance, or they're fucked beyond belief. And they got to stop talking about these spinoffs.
Yeah, I just saw a story that said Solo's dropped 77% or something like that.
It's a good number.
It's crashing miserably, and it costs so much money to make as well and market.
Yeah, and remember, these people used to say, "Oh, it's good that Kathleen Kennedy fired Lord Miller and did all these things to make a better movie for the fans," but there was no better movie for the fans. In many ways,
well,
she
everyone wants to see what Lord and Miller's contribution was, so we could be clear on that. Because it's like, did they do the good parts of Solo then?
What are the good parts, MauLer?
I'm gonna do like a full video so I can explain that to people, because I don't think it's like, reprehensible.
Oh yeah.
But,
it's the robot dildo, wasn't it?
I think L3 put it in the grave for me, that film. Like, I think it would have been much stronger if that character was just gone.
Well, I know this is not a popular thing to say, but if L3 wasn't in the movie, it would have been like Justice League for me. Now, hear me out, because I don't think Justice League is a great movie at all. But I think the hype going in was so negative and the press was so negative that I watched Justice League and I went, when does it get real shitty? And then I left the movie, I'm like, that was fine, like a 6 out of 10. It was just fine. Had L337 not appeared, I would have waited, because the movie starts out fine. I would have waited, like, when does this get really terrible like the other movies? And I would probably just been like, it was a 5 or a 6 out of 10. But I had that moment. So for me, with her, that's when it died, and I don't know if there's something better in there, and maybe Lord and Miller could have saved it.
I mean, have you heard about, like, what do you think about the idea that the whole time, right now even, that we've been kind of wrong on this, and the L3 was deliberately like that? She's a parody of it, and she's making fun of SJWs. They
would have made her more likable, maybe, or given her a moment.
It's not a good satire if nobody fucking could tell, or at least a lot of people couldn't tell.
I mean, this isn't like Andy Kaufman style shit where people aren't supposed to get in on the joke. Like, this is Star Wars. This is really basic stuff. I don't think that worked at all. L337 was not meant to be a parody of SJW politics. Look at Jonathan Kasdan.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're taking it very seriously. And the film, I mean, we don't care about spoilers, obviously. We mentioned this earlier. She gets killed in a scene that has music swelling and the characters shouting her name. It's like, you think that this is supposed to be a joke, that we're supposed to be laughing at this scene. I don't think they wanted us to laugh. I think we're finding it funny because of how inept this whole thing is.
Yeah, it could have been. She could have been a sassy robot, kind of like how Dandy Newton's character was in the beginning of the film with Woody Harrelson, and that would have been better than droid rights, freedom, and all this other crap, and then this weird sexual relationship. And the thing is, I don't think, like, other forms of science fiction have people banging robots and stuff, like Heavy Metal Magazine and crap like that. I get it. But Star Wars is kind of like space fantasy, and there's like a certain template you kind of go with, and I don't know, certain sci-fi elements don't work.
You certainly can't just rush past something like that as well, right? Like, just go, yeah, that's a thing, moving on.
Because like in Blade Runner, Harrison Ford bangs Rachel, right? The replicant.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
dishwasher.
Yeah, it's kind of acceptable to bang replicants and stuff like that. In Star Wars, they're humans. We don't really see androids per se in the original ones. Like Lobot is what is Lobot? Half man, half robot type of thing. But they don't ever get into this whole like what is
he's like a cyborg. We do see cybernetics, you know, but yeah, we don't really see androids as such.
Well, this is a super chat that came in. There's others that came before, but I want to read this because we're talking about Kathleen Kennedy. She's the Amy Pascal of Disney. They won't fire her. They will give her another job at Disney. Maybe she will run/ruin Fox. They won't get rid of her now. It will be bad PR. It will happen after episode 9. And that came from
she'll get promoted. She'll get fire promoted. Totally.
Because Amy Pascal and the whole
rich right now, right? She's got to be like made of money.
Oh God, yeah. She's attached to Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, Star Wars, all this other shit. And she's married to Gary Marshall, who produced Raiders of the Lost Ark and all these other movies.
Uh-huh.
Like you can look up her net worth. I'd say she's probably worth what, 50 mil? That's just
I'm just saying, like, does she even need a job? Could she just be, you know, let go, quote unquote, and be fine with it?
Well, she should go to colleges across America and speak about what her cause was in Lucasfilm or whatever, write a book, but just stop making movies. I don't think she really needs to be involved with anything. She's so out of touch. And I know people keep saying, what about why her? Why her? Well, she's the face of a corporation. Everybody blames George Lucas for everything on the prequels, and it's fine. He was the head of it all. So it's now her time to be blamed for everything. And in America, I mean, obviously this is just corporate America, but like there's even like golden parachutes. Didn't the lady at Yahoo get like $50 million for fucking up or something?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the newer CEO.
Yeah,
I remember that when she bought Tumblr. God, hey guys, we're losing a bunch of money. Let's go find an even bigger money pit. Let's make sure that happens. And somebody get me kerosene and a lighter, please.
David Savage sent in the only new movies they could make. Only these new movies could make the thought of a Jar Jar movie seem really good and more interesting.
Oh my God, I'd watch it.
Finally, a movie about a Sith Lord.
What do you guys think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, MauLer.
You just reminded me of the fact that it's like you and Kylo come back. It's time to finish his training. It was like, ooh, and then there's nothing in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, that was fun. He's just like, your training is to be complete by killing Rey. It's like, oh, that was what it was.
I will never in my life understand. You were talking earlier. We were all talking earlier about Kylo Ren being a terrible character and the internet thinking he's amazing, where it's just like, wait a minute. So you guys hated the prequels because Anakin was a whiny, entitled bitch. But then, you know,
yeah,
this guy who with a shittier haircut could literally be Hayden Christensen.
Well, my theory is that he emotes like heavily, right? He's like screaming and, you know, tearing up, shaking. So it's a lot of people looking at that just like, what a performance, what a character. And it's like, whoa. Performance is one thing. It was like just being emotional isn't character.
Yeah.
Well, he just doesn't instill the fear that Darth Vader did. Therefore, I can't get behind our characters facing that adversity. It's all about adversity in Star Wars. Every character has it. All the good characters have it in Star Wars. What adversity did Jar Jar Binks face? Nothing. He had he was going to be banished from whatever the underworld, and then he came back. Whoop-de-doo. But like, it was life or death for Han, Luke, and Leia, and we were behind them 100%. Literally, like I said earlier in the stream, everything is handed to Rey. Not a goddamn thing was earned by that character. Harry Thompson said, Porkins says everything is fine while going down in flames. We have found Kathleen Kennedy's true muse.
I don't think wiser words have ever been spoken. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But she sees the solar results. Having a little trouble here.
Eject! I can hold it!
Pull up!
I'm all right! If I had the video editing skills, I would make that scene. Her face over Porkins as she crashed.
Yes! Yeah,
look, there's almost 4,200 people watching. If one of you guys would like to mail that to me, worldclassbs@mail.com, and make that video, I'll give you full credit, send you a free T-shirt, all kinds of shit. Let's make it happen, folks.
Yeah, then you got to find like the faces of the YouTube shill channels, put them on the last three, where it's like, Luke, the other YouTube channels are angry and they're coming in much faster this time. I can't hold them.
Yes. Blasted pigs.
John Campea has to be Wedge, because remember how Wedge left? He's like, I'm sorry. And Luke's like, you're no good back there. Campea's on the other side quick. He's like, I got to get back to the base. They'll kill me.
There was a fan edit for like a bunch of YouTube channels in the Infinity War trailer that were fighting Kathleen Kennedy as Thanos. Do you see that?
Yeah, I'm in one of them.
Yeah, that's the one that me and you were in.
Yes.
I think
so
I was
crazy.
I think you're Iron Man and I was War Machine.
When somebody sent me that photo, I was like, oh my God, we're getting memed now. This is cool. Zephyr says, can we all agree that the term Boba Fetted must be changed to getting Snoked? Yeah.
A little bit. Although you don't you have in the back of your mind, you think maybe they'll bring him back in some bullshit incarnation.
Maybe, yeah. One of the things I predicted from my Last Jedi videos was I was like, I cannot wait to see how much Abrams is going to retcon. And like, I think Rian Johnson's actually said that it's like a lot of his writing may not be concrete because of you can do anything in the following film. You could undo every choice he's done. It would be a little bit clunky, but for example, Rey's parents could be, Luke and Leia. How stupid is that? They could do it. They just have to say it.
Right. They could bring Luke back to life somehow, like real life, not just a ghost. Like they could just bring him back, I
mean, are we pretending that they actually adhere to rules? Because they don't.
Right.
Well, when Boba Fett shows up, they've officially beaten the dead horse to death again, because, come on. I mean, when George Lucas threw him in A New Hope special edition, people were pissed and it was cringy. And when he shows up in Attack of the Clones as a kid, it's kind of cringy. Like, they're taking away the cool factor. Michael, you remember when Boba Fett was just a guy in that one or two scenes in Empire, and everyone was like going nuts about him.
Yeah. I remember asking my mom, can you please go find this character called Boba Fett, and I all I knew about him was he looked awesome, and he was in my friend's figure collection, and I was like, I have to have that.
How does that? How bad is that? How much of a metric of how deeply beshitted the Star Wars franchise is right now that a guy who was literally introduced in the Star Wars holiday special has now been in a worse film?
Yeah,
I don't get, like, if they made, let's say they made a really strong movie in terms of making Boba Fett a badass. It's like you know how his story ends, right? Like, so making him badass just makes that even more awkward. It's like
Right.
you have a film of him killing everyone and just being amazing, and then it's like, what happens to him? Oh yeah, he gets eaten by a sand vagina.
Let
It's
me-
like,
He gets swallowed by a butthole in the middle of the desert. Don't worry about it.
What if they told a Boba Fett story? Like, I'm trying to think I don't really know an example, but like it was narrated, not necessarily like a Morgan Freeman narration, but like it's Boba Fett telling these stories, and then they do tell the story of how he comes out of the thing like the day after or the next minute, and the rebels just got away type of thing. Like, do you think they could do that and kind of salvage it?
Well, that happened in the comics. I remember Dengar saves him from the Sarlacc pit. That was canon for a long time. Dengar pulls him out of there, and then him and Dengar have adventures for a while.
and a lot of people are suggesting a sequel film for Boba Fett from Episode 6 instead of a prequel.
Yeah, that would be better.
If you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would be like, that sounds like the greatest thing ever. But now that we have what we have,
Oh god, yeah, they'll make him crap probably.
yeah.
I just like the idea of a Morgan Freeman narrated Boba Fett movie.
I know.
That's what I like.
Jabba the Hutt was a fat drink of water.
Boba Fett fell into the Sarlacc, not knowing if he would ever escape.
He had to crawl through 3 miles of thick.
The Sarlacc burped. It's canon that he died.
Oh man.
Let's finish up these super chats and then we'll put this baby to bed. Action Com, since there are a lot of complaints about Hollywood's lack of creativity, can be disappointing and summer being a failure, can we say that Hollywood has seen its day? He spelled can like Cannes Film Festival. Sorry, that's why it threw me off.
I mean, Hollywood is already in trouble from the perspective of all the competition from content creators and over the tops like Netflix, Hulu, and things like that. So traditional Hollywood and traditional networks are already sort of getting closer to the ropes. They're not quite on them yet, but they're getting closer. Drago is beating Rocky back, and
Not to mention video games.
Right? Yes, video games are a big factor. So, is Hollywood done for yet? I don't know. They're going to have to juke and make some cool moves.
I think they got to make everyone feel better. Like when you leave the first Star Wars movie, you're like, wow, that was a great story. That was an epic adventure. Like, I'm ready for more. If you can give people emotions like that, yeah, you get those from video games, but it's a little different too. Like, I play a lot of games. When you beat something really hard, you feel like a sense of accomplishment. But like when you go to a movie that like the Avengers, when I left the Avengers, like everyone in the theater was clapping. We were all excited and happy. The first one. And it was like a big moment, like of all 250 people. We all looked at each other like, yeah, we went on that adventure together. Movies can give you that. Video games can't necessarily give you that. And if Hollywood would just tap into that more, or they would do the crazy approach, which we talk about on the podcast, start doing crossovers of shit you never thought would happen and make it events that seem absurd but make them good, and you could keep people coming back to theaters for stuff like that.
Like Alien vs. Predator?
Well, shut up. No, it was a dark time in 2004, okay? No, but we jokingly talk, like there's going to be that Godzilla King Kong movie that comes out next year?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, there's been a Godzilla King Kong movie back in the day, but just do like crazier things like that. Hypothetical. This is not what I want to be done, but say like the Guardians hit Star Wars type of thing. Just something that's an example, not what I'd like to see happen, but something like that. Two crazy franchises come together that you never expect.
Almost like a film serial or something.
Yeah. By the way, I watched your video on Solo and the film series thing, and now I want to watch the old Shadow serial. So you're giving me stuff to watch.
If you watch the old Flash Gordon stuff, or you watch the Spider or the Shadow or any of those fun film serials, you'll immediately realize, like, holy fuck, this is not that hard. This is not rocket science. Like, they can do this in a long form thing, give it a little bit more meaning so that it doesn't have quite so much levity. And they could pretty much continue Star Wars indefinitely. All they need is a little bit of creativity and a general idea of where they're going.
Do you really think guys like Abrams and Johnson have ever watched a movie serial like that? I do not think so. I do not think they have done that.
Nor do I. And that's the problem, because George Lucas was reared on that shit. And
I think those guys sit around watching like Wim Wenders movies and stuff, thinking that they are just hot shit, and then they are.
Well, has J.J. Abrams ever seen something that's not a Steven Spielberg flick? Because that's all he seems to rip off is Steven Spielberg. It's like, hey, when I was a kid, I saw E.T. Here's almost said 8mm. What's that movie that they did about the
Super
8? Sorry,
right,
8mm was Nicolas Cage. That's a way different movie.
I just find it interesting that he's such a devotee of Steven Spielberg, and yet he's never figured out how to end a movie, because Spielberg was the master at ending things, and J.J. Abrams couldn't end something to save his life at gunpoint.
You've seen the mystery box bullshit, right?
Yes, the TED Talk.
Yeah. It's so sad watching that and realizing what he makes. You're just like, that's
yeah. And in the TED Talk, he uses the original Star Wars as an example of how you do great quote unquote mystery box filmmaking, and I'm like, yeah, that's called just telling a good story. No mystery.
What's the mystery about Star Wars that's not, like, front and center and solved?
He believes that the mystery box is this whole thing where he's like, yeah, but Luke mentions this guy named Ben, and then Ben turns out to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Obi-Wan reveals that Luke's father was a Jedi, and then he reveals that he can train him. And I'm like, you see the operative word there, JJ, is reveals. You actually give people a little more information to keep going through the movie, whereas you just line up 800 questions and answer none of them, and then you're like, I'm a mystery box genius, and everybody just wants to punch you in the face.
I mean, I honestly would have liked to have seen JJ's Last Jedi to see what he would have done instead. Not because I think it's going to be good, literally just because I'd be like, what would you have done with your own setups? Would you have just continuously pushed them again? Like every scene is just like, oh, we'll see. We will see in the third one. That's when it's coming.
Yeah, well, J.J. Abrams announced back before Last Jedi came out that he had read the script for Last Jedi from Rian Johnson and was, quote, so jealous because it was so good he wished he was directing episode 8.
And there you have it.
Yeah.
Do you love the idea that he is ending the trilogy, the guy who can't end anything?
No, I'm not. Well, I am loving it because it heightens the possibility that it will suck as much as I think it will.
Yeah. I think Kylo Ren's going to turn out to be a smoke monster.
I was a Lost fan. I was not a Lost fan at that point. Like, you lost me with the smoke monster turning out to be the fight between light and darkness. I don't even.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker's gonna come back as a polar bear. It'll be amazing.
Well, people in the chat were like, Han Solo might not be dead because he only fell down the thing and got stabbed. I'm like, he's gone. Like, that's never gonna happen, guys.
Yeah, Han Solo. Hey, Harrison Ford. If you have watched interviews over the last several years, you know the only reason he signed on to do that movie is because they promised they would kill him.
Yeah.
It was basically cinematic euthanasia.
Yeah.
And a dump truck full of money. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
And so J.J. Kevorkian hooked him up to the machine. And...
What would you guys' reaction be if Episode 9 opened with the Millennium Falcon exploding and everyone inside it dead?
I applaud. Just
I would be. I'm not even kidding, dude. I'd be so happy.
Like I said in my video, if I have to look at the inside of the Millennium Falcon one more fucking time, I never want to see it again. I can't believe I am saying that. I love the Millennium Falcon. We all loved the Millennium Falcon growing up, but how have they reverse engineered it into like the emblem of a dying franchise?
It is embarrassing.
It also leans heavily left, I think.
All right, let me read these last few super chats. By the way, folks, before you start leaving this live stream, tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, I will be here with the guys from World Class Bullshitters, and we're going to do another watch party for The Empire Strikes Back. So if you want to get involved with that, it's going to be here on YouTube. It's not a Patreon exclusive or anything. It's going to be a lot of fun. We did it for A New Hope, and we've had nothing but positive responses, so come back for that. Gary Bernaska says, celebration the same way we celebrate life at a funeral. Ethan B says, keep it up, guys. The passion is obvious. We already read the Action Com. Rhino4563. This better not be moist porn. By the way, if you guys are curious about this moist shit, some guy named Brandon Moist sent in super chat, and we read it, and we laughed at his last name. He's like, my real last name is Moist. Then we quoted a movie title with the word moist replacing another word, and then there was a flood of people just saying, Star Wars, The Moist Awakens, and it went on for 30 minutes. So if you're like, what the hell are these people talking about?
That makes sense.
McKinney90 says, she's gaining mass, but still flat enough to play D&D games on.
Oh.
That's no moon.
That's her head. Luke got Ray Prego. That comes from Anthony Gates. Ew. That's a twist nobody wants to see, dude.
No.
King Eric 15 or the 15th. Rose Tico confirmed as Squirrel Girl. Ugh. The girl that's playing Squirrel Girl is kind of cute. That Melina Weintraub or whatever her name is. The T-Mobile girl. Shawnee Wynn. Episode 9 leak includes Rey having a kid and Kylo nearly killing her before an older character stops him. This sounds too familiar. Really? Why? How is she going to be a mother? Who would have slept with her?
No kidding.
The Force, apparently.
Well, it worked for Shmi Skywalker, so let's copy episode 1. Byron Saxton. Not the real one. I was wondering if there was only one person who thought The Last Jedi's use of making suicide attacks appear heroic was disturbing, or was it just me as a veteran?
You know, now that I think about it, did you see that there was like an article this last week about Admiral Akbar's last words?
Yeah, I saw the article was a thing, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I've always assumed his last words were, "Don't let the chick drive."
What a way to just brush under an iconic character.
Yes.
Holdo does not immediately sacrifice herself. She watches like more than half the fleet get blown up before she decides to do what she's going to do. When she knows she's dead already, I find it amazing. I'm like, you are so incompetent. You can't even kill yourself properly.
Not only that, but she's got a plan she doesn't tell anybody about, and that plan is to commit suicide after letting lots and lots of other people die.
But she didn't trust Poe, so it makes sense. That's what everyone said.
You know what? I take back my statement of L337 being the worst Star Wars character. When we live in a world with Admiral Holdo, the cake. So much so that I dislike the actress now. Like, whenever I see her in shit, I'm just like, nope.
Well, fortunately, Laura Dern is never in anything, so.
I was so taken out of. I was like, that's the Jurassic Park girl. What's she doing? Why does she have purple hair?
Shouldn't you be running away while Robert Muldoon is eaten by a velociraptor?
Travis Weingarten says, I was a bit of a fan of the extended universe, and I loved the original movies. I grew up with them. But after everything Disney's done, I refuse to see episode 8 or beyond, and I consider myself a normal fan. Well, Travis, you are so lucky that you've never seen episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would pay money to have that movie wiped from my memory. Same with episode 7. Just
Yeah, I mean, because even if you like episode 7, it just sets you up for blue balls with the second one.
Yeah. Do you guys hate this whole like only Star Wars fans could hate Star Wars this much, as if it's a contradiction? When it's like, doesn't that make sense? It's like your heart is in it.
Yeah, I'm so sick of people saying that the fans are the problem. I'm so sick of that. I don't even know how to expound on that except to say, yeah, I'm sick of it.
We're not the problem when we make them billions of dollars. So
yeah, but you notice we weren't the problem when most of us didn't like the prequels.
Right.
You notice that? Yeah. Like, we're only the problem now that a chick is in charge. Basically.
Although now they're using that as evidence to say that the fans have always been the problem. I've seen them say, yeah, this is no different than back during the prequels where the fans, like, even Jeremy Johns said that in his video. He was like, well, you know, it's been that way forever, you know, with the prequels. And then Jeremy Johns says that annoying jump cut like he's being clever.
Yeah, which is absurd because you know, if any of you went to the Force.net back in the day or wherever, there was still a vibrant community that loved the prequels.
Yeah, exactly.
The prequels to this day are still adored by a huge portion of people.
Yeah, they were making fan films about the prequels like crazy, spending tons of their own money to make as professional a fan film as possible. And that's the Star Wars fan base that you're calling toxic.
Yeah, exactly.
Astro Panda, were you expecting a good super chat? No, it was me, Dio. Keep up the good stuff. Thank you. The Highlander, when I see that Rey chick, I just want to feed her a meal. Hashtag feed the females of Star Wars. Have you ever seen that video of Carrie Fisher where she says they liked her so much, but they only want to hire 3/4 of her because every woman is smaller and smaller?
Yep.
What do you guys think about the fact that she said, don't let them put you in the bikini thing to Rey? To Daisy Ridley.
Carrie Fisher?
Yeah.
I think she was on the good stuff that day.
I mean, plus,
I love Carrie Fisher to death, but oh, come on. Well, you could tell. You would watch the occasional interview and it'd be like, huh, I guess they upped the prescription that way.
Well, yeah, but you know, also I say suffered very sarcastically because she jokes about it, but you know, she endured having worn that costume, and then that costume followed her around for the rest of her career. Yeah. I think she's entitled to say whatever she wants about it, joke or not.
I'm not disagreeing with her. I just find it like interesting, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always think of the hair buns over the gold bikini.
No kidding.
Right.
Well, because I'm not. She's okay looking, but I never found Princess Leia as like this like really hot woman in a movie. I was just like, okay, she's all right looking. There's other women in other movies that I found way more attractive. Even as a kid, like I thought Vicky Vale was really hot. Princess Leia was cool, but I never was like, oh, you know, Princess Leia in that bikini, man. Let me tell you. Like I had the action figures as a kid, and never once did I go, I'm gonna make Luke Skywalker and Han Solo banger. Like I just, you know, those thoughts never popped up for me. But I get it, and I get the gold bikini, and I do like how she would always talk about how people could see all the way down it.
I think there's more the fact that it was on an episode of Friends, and there you are.
Oh,
you know, that would follow you the hell around because that show is in syndication like crazy.
I'll never watch Friends again. I did it one time when it was new. Never again.
Good call.
Well, I mean, I was 5 when it debuted, 6. So it's like, oh, these people are older. It's cool. I shouldn't be watching this show at night. Well, it's Friends, and you grow up and you realize how stupid it is. Liverpool WA7SH says, I wish we could had some backstory scenes for the Academy, some introduction scenes to a whole group of new characters in the Knights of Ren, but no, we had to have an hour of the casino to learn about veganism and animal cruelty.
Oh, that casino.
Yeah, can't
one of the counter arguments, again, I'll leave the name out, but one of the counter arguments for Canto Bight, as in like defending it, is it's only 7% of the movie,
and it was supposed to be a hell of a lot more.
Yeah,
and it's just funny because it's like it was 7%. It's like it was. It's like wow, it felt like it was like a half an hour at least.
I know.
Yeah, it felt like the wedding scene
from Relevancy or something.
Well, wasn't The Last Jedi the longest Star Wars movie?
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, which is funny because one of the reasons that they cut down Rogue One was because they said it had to be 20 minutes shorter than it was because it was over 2 hours. And I'm like, wait a minute. You then let out a 2 hour, 40-minute, fever dream. I don't get it.
I'll admit I was kind of high on Rogue One after what I went through with The Force Awakens. But like I said, as I've gone back, I've kind of come to the realization that it's way better than the other ones, but it's still not like the best Star Wars movie ever.
That's
the
exactly
biggest compliment I pay it is, okay, you're the best out of the four.
that's what I say too, because I have a hard time rewatching it knowing what I know.
Yeah, there's just, I don't know. There's actually boring parts to me. Like we did a commentary for Patreon, and I went, "Oh, this is kind of boring." Let's see, Dragon Realms. We have gone from ripping off the original trilogy to ripping off the prequels. When I heard that Darth Maul was in Solo, I laughed so hard I cried. There is no creativity.
He turns on his lightsaber and then turns it off for no reason. It's so funny.
Yeah, and it was stupid. Jim Bobo says Rian Johnson should fornicate himself with a sharp stick because he already fucked with The Last Jedi. Mark's Main says Star Wars The Old Republic writers should not be let anywhere near the movies. While the base game is decent, the expansions have awful contrived storytelling. Besides, their best writer, Drew Karpyshyn, left last year. I was not aware of that. Mariner1712 says, Retro, I suspect that Hasbro bought all of the Saban properties, namely Power Rangers, for exactly that reason. They want something they can ensure will sell toys. Solid 975. Check out the YouTube video Disney Star Wars. Is it sexist or not to fire Kathleen Kennedy? It's not.
Oh my gosh, guys! Now, Jonathan Kasdan has come out to address why they didn't cast Anthony and Gruber instead of Alden Ehrenreich.
Wait, is that real?
Yeah, it's on Screen Rant.
Jesus.
I gotta read that. He went out on Twitter. Anthony and Gruber did audition for Chris and Phil, along with hundreds of other talented actors. But then the thing goes on to say, Alden Ehrenreich was the first person to audition for it out of 2,500 people and got it because, he says, quote, because the fans were already talking about Alden. It's like, no, Spielberg met him at a party.
Yeah.
And Spielberg has admitted that and suggested him. So even though they auditioned 2,500 people and they had this guy that looked just like Harrison Ford, they coincidentally choose the first person to walk in who also happens to be the guy Spielberg recommended.
He just was a charisma vacuum, Michael. Like, seriously, that guy, he smiled the whole movie.
Right.
He was just like, hey, guys, blah, 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 blah. And he was just too optimistic. Like, I don't believe that 4 years or 5 years later he'd become the Han Solo from A New Hope.
Right.
I agreed. I think, funnily enough, Chris Stuckman made this point. It was like one of the aspects I really didn't see with this one was and you could argue, well, it's a prequel, so why would you? But I wanted to see it. The idea that Han knows better than the people he's around, and he's like, shooing them off like, oh God, this is a stupid plan. Like, let me do it.
Right.
That's not in Solo at all. He's kind of like following everyone's lead, and it's really lame to see Han Solo do that.
Right.
Yeah, the good characters. Okay, put it like this: the main event characters that people are there to see aren't given their just due. There's no coolness to Han Solo. Like, Han Solo was the dude everybody wanted to be. Even if you drove the shitty car, he had the most charisma. And they don't know how to do that anymore with any movie character, not male or female. The female ones are too contrived, and they're meant to make a point, and the dudes are all buffoons for just weak. Like, Hollywood's fucked up right now in that regard. The Avengers can do it right, and that's really about it. Matthew Lavole says, Kath Kennedy may be a good business head, but she doesn't seem to be a good movie head. Neglasax, thank you. The fans are the problem is essentially saying we're intending to make hollow, vapid, and forgettable movies with pretty graphics and awkward forced memes. Problem, you are afraid of strong girls. I'm tired of that excuse, for real. Christopher Burkill, I don't know where the Brandon Moist came from, but I'm pretty sure the use of the Moist originated from an EVS live stream when he was playing Fabio, and he said all his Fabio stuff was making him moist. Maybe that's the truth, but Brandon Moist rolled it in to world-class bullshitters. Count Lazuli says, I remember watching the scene with all the horses, cats running through the casino and thinking, how did we get here again? And finally, the Highlander says, Rian Johnson sucks the sweat off a dead man's balls. Good morning, Vietnam. So, folks, I think that's a good place to close out this live stream.
Dead men's ball sweat. Okay.
Yeah, right? You know, it started with Star Wars and ended with the ball sack of a dead guy. Same thing, right? So, before we close this out and anyone clicks away, MauLer, tell people where they can find you on YouTube.
I mean, MauLer and Star Wars will get you there. I basically just rant about how bad Star Wars is and then get pissed when people are like, you're wrong because, you know, Kylo's an amazing character, or the story in The Last Jedi makes sense. Canto Bite's only 7%. So I made like I think it comes to 5.5 hours series taking apart the script, and that's essentially what I've done on my channel the whole time. Is just I take scripts apart and explain as much as I can why it is a terrible film, and I've managed to. That's what's blown my channel up now, and it's useful for people who really love The Last Jedi. You know, you might find a bit of a change of mind. That's all. So check it out if you want. That's what
I recommend you guys check it out. I'll go out and say it straight up. Another channel I recommend you check out, Razorfist. Razorfist, tell everyone about your channel before we go.
Yeah, I cover pretty much everything. I cover video games, I cover movies, I do live streams, I talk about comics, I do some current events, rants and stuff. It's mostly just rants style shit. But yeah, you can just check me out by looking up hell, I have a lot of Star Wars videos if you want to keep on this topic. Razorfist Star Wars, simple as that. I've done a number of them. I reviewed The Last Jedi, I reviewed The Force Awakens, I gave my top 5 Star Wars games video and so forth. I've done a lot actually with Star Wars. So yeah, just check me out there or go to twitter.com/Razorfist with a 0.
And Michael, tell people where they can find you.
Retroblasting can be found at youtube.com/retroblasting or retroblasting.com or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's all integrated. And our channel is all about deconstructing the toys, movies, and cartoons of the Gen X experience. So everything from Jaws to Jurassic Park. We do go backwards and forwards a little bit on that. We slip a little bit depending. But yeah, we do fully produced, fully scripted feature videos about the toys, well, the TV shows, the cartoons, and then the merch that went with it for different properties. And we have a series that people seem to like called Star Wars Follies, where we talk about all the vintage Star Wars weirdness of the original trilogy.
And folks, if you like this channel, you like what I have to say, and I give my personal recommendation to all 3 of these channels. MauLer, great dude with in-depth stuff. Razorfist, beyond funny, especially his Dennis Miller impression. And Retroblasting is the best toy channel on YouTube. Don't worry about anyone else's toy channel. Watch Retroblasting, because you'll get a whole new take on toys in general. And before we close out, Tiger San said this: who the fuck names the main villain Kylo? Think about it. I would name my dog Kylo because it's cute. It doesn't sound like a main villain name. That's a good point. The characters all have stupid names. Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo. Come on.
Scissor Punch.
Therm Scissor Punch. The biggest joke of that movie didn't even really appear for much. So,
and all the characters are in a Homeward Bound scenario.
Cats rule and dogs drool.
Fuck. But folks, make sure you subscribe to this channel if you want more crossovers like this. I've had crossovers with MauLer, Razorfist, and Retroblasting in the past. Check out those videos. Check out their channals. And if enough people request it, we'll get them back. We'll make the time. We'll make it happen. And make sure you come back tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time for a review of The Empire Strikes Back. I've been your host, Jeff Hicks, and thank you.